I am who I am because I value my past. The memories of yesterday can never be changed, but they give me a reason to live again. There is a reason I am here today, but there is no reason you lost your lives. You were called abusive names, deprived of rights to be humans, slayed because of who you were born. I am lighting a candle as the sign of resilience. I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you sowed. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. I was young, I still needed you, but you were taken away from me too soon. If I had one wish, it would be seeing you again. Today we're strong men and women, even though you are not here to see. We're carrying on to make you feel proud out there, watching down on us. I am lighting a candle as the sign of resilience. I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you sowed. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. I am a witness that if you and I come together as one, we can make sure genocide never happens again. History should be told and passed on to further generations. Let's all stand up and all sing out, never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again. To genocide. Never again, never again, never again. We brought you flowers. 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 We brought you flowers.
Good evening, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to this very important broadcast, Ambazonia, this week with Paddy King. There's been a lot of tension in the air. The past week has been full of controversy. A few days ago, a letter popped up on the social media, probably released by those involved, with some U.S. lawmakers soliciting, petitioning to the Trump's government to consider renewing the TPS for especially those that are victims of the war in Southern Cameroon. Lots of argument came just hours later. The news has it that the Trump's administration has denied the renewal of the TPS, and some victims of the war in the Cameroons and other Cameroonians probably pretending to receive, especially from French Cameroon, pretending to receive protection in the United States of America, could be deported back into the dungeons of President Paul Biya in the month of May into June. Well, the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa, has proactively sent out some messages to encourage Ambazonians that this is a political move. Trump wants to fulfill what he told his voters during the election. So there are lots of concerns, a lot of arguments, and so much for us to look into that. Venezuela was denied TPS, but the judiciary involvement and implementation was not as declared by the Trump policy to have Venezuelans that were protected under this law to be deported. So are there any chances for Ambazonians who are actually faced with the risk of annihilation or the risk of long imprisonment to be deported? Will the government's lobby or the work that the government of Ambazonia, is it all in futility? What are the hopes in the days ahead? So much for us to discuss this evening. We will be having Tabitha not right immediately. I want to have the lawyers and Dr. Fred Lobati, who is with us in the studio, get to look at this very closely, or look on other issues before we get Tabitha ask them a few questions in a few minutes, and they'll be back with us for us to examine other things that are happening, especially with Philemon Young and the future of Cameroon's elections this year, how Ambazonia is working very closely to ensure that it doesn't work. So much is happening. Tibor a friend of Ambazonia, as we know it, had a 3 months assignment that has come to an end. But some statements he's made, he believes in Trump's foreign policy, in fact, Trump's policy, but does not agree with the approach. The MAGA movement is united in the policy of making America great again. But we've seen in the past days, some major members of Trump's MAGA movement not very in agreement with the approach. Let's find out, before I get the commentators on board, what the news is saying about the GOP. And right after that, our discussion will commence. Stay tuned.
Is actually looking at the numbers and has discovered that the Republican Party is in a better position than it has been in decades and cannot believe it. Watch this.
Take a look. Cares more about the needs for people like you. We got a tie, even after this tariff war had already started, split between Democrats and Republicans on how people feel which party cares more for needs of people like you. And why is that so surprising? Because I want you to take a look at prior years. Democrats always lead on this question. All of a sudden, the Democrats, who are the party of the people, no more.
So this question, who cares more about people like you, is generally regarded as the most important question in politics, because whoever is seen as caring more about people like you is always has a stronger hand. Democrats have always been sort of the mommy party, and so they've always dominated in this. And and Republicans were the daddy party. So if it was a question of security, you would run to the Republicans. Now, under Donald Trump, he's completely erased the advantage Democrats have historically had on who do you care about, who cares more about people like me.
What's amazing is Harry Enton feels like all he does now for CNN is tell CNN viewers things that they can't believe.
Yeah.
You know, the way he always addresses the camera, he's like, you're not going to believe this. And all of you watching it are saying, well, I kind of believe it. You know, Trump got elected. He won the popular vote. And he's done a pretty good job in the first 90 days. And most of you watching are going to say that. But every time he addresses the camera, it's as if he's delivering a mind-blowing, earth-shattering
Can you imagine him
revelation.
at the water cooler? Everybody over there hates him. It's like,
You weren't supposed to say that. You weren't supposed to show that.
The anchor who stands beside him always has to look surprised, right? Like, oh, wow, he's really popular.
But you know what? They are in that bubble, and they are surprised. The point is that if you're saying, I really believe that illegals should be, Tren de Aragua should stay in our country, let's bring them back. Let's actually fight to bring them back. Or I really think illegal immigrants should vote in our election. I'm going to vote against, having citizens show their IDs and prove that they're citizens before their vote. Or if you say, I'm on the side of China when it comes to tariffs, like, all of this stuff is it's mind blowing. And all Donald Trump has done is steal their issues. And he didn't steal it in a, political, disingenuous way. He actually was a Democrat who believed these things since the 80s and said people are ripping us off. And he's basically doing everything the Democrats for decades have said they wanted to do, but actually joined with the Uni Party in basically screwing over the working class. And Donald Trump is saying, no, this is my second term. I'm older. I'm wiser. I've got better people. And I'm not going to sit around and deal with your, like I did in the first term and all your Russia hoaxes. I'm in month 2 and 3 dealing with the issue that should have been done decades ago. That's why I think he's got those numbers, guys.
I think that's 100% right. And also, it's basic common sense, to your point. It's not even nakedly partisan in any way. It's just rational.
The party of the working class.
And he came in the front door. Nothing underhanded about it.
No, won the popular vote and the electoral vote, so now no one could say anything. And he's doing what he said he was going to do.
But it still drives him crazy.
It does. That clip from CNN was great. You're so right, Clay, that everyone at CNN is...
They're still grappling with winning all the battleground states and dominating, and American people responding well to it. And frankly, they're having trouble getting out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
It is really fun.
It's fun.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian.
Okay, that's from Fox News relaying the commentaries made by a CNN journalist. But it has come to a point where it hits a very direct interest of Ambazonians fleeing the war, and we have to talk about it. I'd like us to have a brief conversation on that. I have with me in the studio Barrister Fru John Nsoh, Barrister Mbeseha, and Dr. Fred Lobati. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Paddy.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you for having us. I'm sure we're ready to contribute our own quota to the understanding of the American system.
Okay,
Yes.
it's amazing. You're all aware of what's happening on the media, and first of all, a letter popped up even within the government. There are those who were not happy about it because they felt that was giving so much credit to the president's diplomatic endeavors. We all know the president has taken months over months to lobby, not just to have a conversation with lawmakers, but to see if laws can be written and that can influence Trump's policy. The president made this to the people of Ambazonia that he is hoping that the efforts put in place, some good news might come. But hitting the news yesterday and today is BBC confirming this morning that Afghans and Cameroonians risk deportation in the month of May and the month of June. My concern is the work done by the government by lobbying these statesmen? Is it a work in futility? Are there any hopes? Dr. Mungwa sent out a message that the lawyers will be communicated, and it is sure that Ambazonians might not be deported because even Venezuelans that were denied TPS a few weeks ago have not been deported because of a court ruling. Where are we? When you look at it with your own eyes, what are you thinking? What's the future? Is there any hope? Maybe I should begin with the lawyers before Dr. Fred. I begin with you, Barrister Fru.
Yes, Paddy. I thank you very much. I read the letter that the congressman wrote and signed. Effectively, they pleaded our case, and I counted the number of signatures on that document, and there were 22 members of the House that sponsored that bill, that sponsored that resolution that is sent to the president. I want to think that this government, the Ambazonian government, led by His Excellency Dr. Samuel Komesako, has done a good job in that area. Look, listen. For now, they still use the word Cameroon, which includes all of us. But in the application of that law, you will find that there will be an exception to those who are from the war zone. And the only war zone that I know in Cameroon is us. Therefore, I'm tempted to agree that the TPS that will be expiring and will not be renewed, tacitly those from the war zone will be renewed, and that is our people. Like, if you listen to the president's press conference, listen to the president's messages of recent, you will hear him say, we have been working to make that distinction. So for now, we are all being called Cameroonians, but effectively, those from the war zone cannot be deported their TPS cannot be withdrawn and they are deported. It's not going to happen because this government has been lobbying for it. That is what I know so far. So any other thing, Cameroonians in general do not deserve TPS. That is the fact.
Especially those who say that will not struggle. Those who don't even believe in the conflict.
That is a fact. That is a fact. But those of us from the war zone, I mean, in quote, Cameroonians from the war zone, because no government has recognized us yet. We are not yet a state, but we are those from the war zone. I am tended to believe that they will not be included in the mix. That is all I have to say.
Yeah, Barrister Mbeseha, please, we want to get your opinion on this issue.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. What we're analyzing calls for reflection on a number of issues. The letter didn't just pop up, I should put it. No, it didn't just pop up. I'm the one who posted that letter, signed by the Congress people. I posted it, it came to me first. So I put it out there. Was it a forgery? Certainly not. We have to understand looking of the American system. At least I've been here for no less than 20 years. The Congress does its job, and that's the work of the Congress. The administration, which is led by the president, does its job. But most often they must be able to cooperate. And so there's no cause to despair. There's absolute cause to despair. If you saw the letters, which we are calling it popped up, if you read the letter, it says, people of the Northwest, Southwest, they call them inside there, the war is there. The peace is not there. The danger is still there if you are sent back home. And so that is important. You see, the deportation process in America is not such a jungle law. You don't just get deported. You talk. Even with the one when they catch you, you have the mouth to talk. You have to explain why you should not go back. And so our people should learn to get used to that. They have to talk. If they catch you, explain yourself that you are from the Northwest, Southwest. You are from the war zone. You are not safe. The American administration understands that, they know that. And so there's nothing controversial there. We don't know, as of now, what the administration is going to do. But they're in their right, because we don't doubt for a moment that there are people who have sought to benefit, for example, immigration-wise, from Cameroon. They have told stories that they are Ambazonians when they are not. They've just lied. And so a true Ambazonian should not have much to despair. It's not an assurance. But the bottom line is, deportation is not a thing it's not a gag. By the time you are deported, if you are caught, you have to talk. Remember this Venezuelan story that we have seen it all there. They deported some people illegally. Some person at least. And the courts have ruled that this is wrong. And the administration is bringing them back. And so we have to learn how to deal with things, as Nsoh says. On the records of the United States government, there's Cameroon, and we're part of that Cameroon. And so it is not the whole Cameroon involved. There's a specific people who are identifiable, our problems are well known. So it does not despair with it. We should understand that in the American system, there's the judiciary, there's the executive, and there is the legislature. The legislature wrote those letters. They have a lot of control over government action. For example, I just saw today, based on Trump's campaign speeches, if you believe in his speeches, they would have just bombed down Iran. But they today are talking with Iran. They have had meetings with Iran. They have a second session tomorrow. Based on just election promises. To just bomb out Hamas. They have not done that. I just read a few minutes ago. They are trying to arrange a ceasefire in Hamas area in Palestine. So there's more in the details than what you hear. The Congress has a lot of control. They don't just deport people. They deport people with the money. The Congress has the purse. They control the money. And so let us remain encouraged that as long as Congress is making a reasonable statement in our favor, that is good. As long as the president is making his overall statement, which in fact is a guideline for his administration, that's okay. But the fine print, the dots, the commas, and the full stops are to be worked out in the details. So it does not be discouraged. The letter was not just a pop-up, it was not an imagination. Those signatures are real, and they represent an important voice in the American administration. For them to deport you, they will need money. They will need money to deport you because you fly. Those flights in America are not free. And again, as of yesterday, in spite of President Trump's all talking, he had to go back to Congress. For them to pass a resolution for him to he needed the Democrats. So it's not just playbook, it's not just social media talking. He had to go back to Congress. And for them to pass the budget for his administration, they needed the Democrats to pass the budget that would enable him to do whatever he wants to do. So the bottom line I can say is, as far as Ambazonians are concerned, let us be encouraged. Let us not be discouraged. Because the fine prints are not yet there. And above all, any Ambazonian involved, remember TPS means temporary protected status. What protecting from what? You are being protected from deportation. That means you are already out of status. You're already out of status. Maybe your asylum project has failed. Maybe you have been here for so long. But don't shut your mouth plain to whoever arrests you. Why you should not send back home. I'm sure if we do that effectively, those people who are involved, some of them will have some benefits. Don't shy from telling the truth. Like the president of Gabon said, make at least the noise. When you make the noise, the people will listen to you. So let us not be discouraged.
That's a very
I think
terrible.
we're on track. We are very much on track. And we'll
That's a
succeed
very
somehow.
that's a terrible comparison. But I guess for the sake of the understanding of what you want people to get, it is good. Make the noise. Ali Bongo made noise, and the noise was not sufficient enough. So I guess you are not giving a prophecy of Ali Bongo to us. But I'd like to applaud the president for his initiative, even though a lot of people had concerns about it. This is real diplomacy, where you get lawmakers to draft laws that will impact policy. And it was remarkable because letters like that don't come. You cannot just have. There are lots of things U.S. lawmakers have to do. For 20-something of them to put themselves together and write a petition would mean somebody would have been intentional in bringing to their attention what is happening. And I like the donors of ABC, the donors of the government, to be proud of the president's diplomatic endeavors. That was a great achievement. And that is somewhat a guarantee that Ambazonians might not be faced with any form of deportation. Now, before we get into the newsroom with Tabitha, she has some questions for you people. She'll be giving us a review of what is happening around the world. I want to come to you, Dr. Fred Lobati. You've heard the lawyers. You have a very unique way of looking at the U.S. government and policy. What do you think as far as this situation is concerned?
Wow, that is very interesting because there's so many different things I can say there. Um, the first thing is that I want people to understand that I'm neither a Republican nor a Democrat. And my opinion has evolved over time through so many different things. I usually pay a lot of attention to details. And I grew up and became of age to be able to observe and monitor politics purposefully when Ronald Reagan defeated Jimmy Carter and became president in 1981. And so I've been monitoring US elections and presidents since then. And then, of course, I've been living in the United States now for about 32 years and have experienced all the different changes from one party to the other. And I used to be what one may call a political junkie in the sense that I would listen to all the talking heads on TV, the different channels, and even the public TV and public radio. And after I've analyzed what they said, then I'll give you my own personal opinion. But I've reached a point where I've literally thrown in the towel. Basically, this current administration is not the usual administration in the United States of America. The past 100 years, the past 100 days or less than 100 days has shaken the core of this country to the point where many people may not be able to recognize that this is still the United States that we have been talking about. And even the media is polarized. So when you presented the opinion of the Fox people, that is the universe of the conservatives, or what they call themselves conservatives. I think they abuse the word conservative. The MAGA people, that's what they listen to. If you presented an opinion from, say, MSNBC or CNN and ABC US channel, CBS and NBC, it will be different from what the Fox people were saying there. So they usually are fanatics, and so they are excited with whatever the current administration is doing. But the thing that troubles me much with the United States government over time is what they call the politics of personal destruction. That means that the fact that you belong to one side means that you hate the other side. And I don't personally believe that that is a good thing. That's why I'm neither a Republican nor a Democrat. I personally believe that the government is the same, even though you may change leadership, just like we exemplified in the former British Southern Cameroons. So when Ndele won and ruled Southern Cameroons, and then eventually Foncha won, Ndele and Foncha drove in the same car to the ceremonial event where Ndele passed power to Foncha peacefully, without any fight. They drove in the same car. These guys cannot do it. They have reached the point where some don't even show up at the ceremonial events, passing power to the other, and they continually oppose each other and abuse each other and make the other appear to be an enemy or unpatriotic. I don't believe that that is true. They are all citizens of the same nation. They are all patriots. And so what I mean concerning the issue you're talking about regarding the children of Ambazonia, the TPS was instituted and signed into law during the time of Biden. And Trump hates Biden. I don't even want to highlight that. He just hates everything that has to do with Biden. It's like he has to get rid of it. And anything that he wants, he pushes for it. And even if he loses, he will continue pushing until he gets right to the Supreme Court to vindicate him or allow him get his way. And even when the Supreme Court is against him, he still doesn't allow it. So the fact that he hates Biden and tries to dismantle and destroy anything that has Biden's signature gives me cause for concern. Because just for that purpose, that Biden is the one who signed this, he may be totally against it. I want to hope and pray that our people who are already here, who are under TPS and have not advanced in their immigration process, will not be deported. and that they will stay and advance to naturalize even and become US citizens. But if it is trusting that this government will carry on a policy that was done by the previous administration, I doubt it because of that hatred. And that is why I don't like the American political system. I don't believe that people should hate others because they belong to different political parties. They are all sons and daughters of the same country. They are all patriots. And so the good thing that one administration does, the other administration should carry it further without demonizing the other. That is my personal opinion about it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
There is the politicization of this effort made by the government that has created controversy within Ambazonian, the camps of, or the ranks of our Ambazonian diasporic community. I guess that's one of the reasons why we had Barrister Mbeseha would release the document he received to tell the people of Ambazonia, listen, we have been doing some work. We did not do what Commander Format calls Sax and Moto diplomacy. Dr. Mungwa calls it picture of what diplomacy. There's a lot. That's something for the first time, I want to talk about that on television. But I would prefer to do that when we're done with Tabitha. I know she has some questions for you people and tried connecting earlier on. It was a little bit challenging. I'll be moving right now. I don't know if the newsroom is ready. Please, you let me know. I'll be handing the microphone to you guys now. If you're ready, I want to see your flash news intro on the screen. Okay, actually, they are ready. Right after that, when they're done asking you people some questions, we'll come back. We have a lot to debate. Philemon Yang also delivered a speech that we missed a few months ago. I shared it with you people. And we need to, it's like they are really positioning him for president. And we have a concern. So we have so much to talk about tonight. Ambazonians who are watching us via our social media platforms on Facebook and on YouTube, keep sharing and sharing because there's so much we will be talking about tonight. Stay tuned.
The United States continues to reel out reciprocal tariffs, and China keeps hitting back, calling Trump's action a unilateral bully. But then, President Trump is not bothered. As markets crash and inflation soars, supply chains faltering and economic instability growing, how long can the continent hold up before the fallout reaches a breaking point? Who is really paying the price here? These and many more issues coming in from the home front will be explored in tonight's Flash News with our commentators. Good evening and welcome. I am Tabitha Ako. Let's begin. China hit back at the U.S. on Friday, raising tariffs on American goods to a staggering 125%, deepening a trade war that's already shaking global markets. This latest move came in response to President Donald Trump's decision to hike tariffs on Chinese imports, escalating tensions between the world's two largest economies. But as markets tumble and inflation climbs and U.S. bonds see their biggest sell-off in decades, one question looms. Is Trump's strategy protecting American interest or fueling economic instability? Now, financial markets are feeling the heat also. Gold prices soared to record highs, bond yields spiked, and the U.S. dollar fell sharply. Investors are rushing to savor assets, fearing a recession while some consumer confidence hits its lowest point. And now, according to the University of Michigan. Meanwhile, Trump dismissed concerns predicting the dollar would recover and claiming his 10% tariffs are just the beginning. Aboard Air Force One, while speaking to reporters, take a look at what President Trump has to say. Miss Owen, please tell them I'm not seeing anything. And then this is not the script, please.
We're making a lot of money as a country now, for the first time in a long time. We were losing billions of dollars a day, and now we're making billions of dollars a day. It's a big difference. And we then brought it down to 10%. And so that made it a little bit less, but I did that because I wanted to be fair to other people, to other countries. Yes, whatever it is, we have a lot of countries, not just China. But whatever it is, I think we're in a very good position. We're doing well. We have a lot of things happening. A lot of new companies are coming on board because of the tariffs and because of the November 5th election.
This is not the script. I sent it. President Trump has just stated the problem needs to be solved. But did he really? Following his initial announcement, the 29 billion trillion U.S. Treasury market saw a sell-off not seen since 2001. That same week, Trump paused tariffs for countries outside China, claiming more than 75 nations had asked for talks, India and Japan included. Still, many leaders remain unsure of how to react to what could be the most dramatic shakeup of global trade rules in a generation. Now, as for China, it says it's done matching U.S. tariffs, but hints it could retaliate in other ways. The Chinese Ministry of Finance called the U.S. action unilateral bullying. While Liu Pingyong, a spokesperson for China's U.S. embassy, warned that China will never bow to pressure. Beijing even implied that future U.S.-China trade may be completely severed. Well, they call President Trump a bully, but he is not bothered. Now, think about this. Is his standoff with China really about fair trade, or is it becoming a political showdown disguised as economic policy? This is an economic war between two world powers, and other nations would be paying the price. However, on the home front, inflation is starting to bite. A recent survey found that Americans now expect prices to rise by 6.7% over the next year, the highest forecast since the early 80s. Now, Republicans, once strong supporters of Trump's trade stance, are now showing signs of growing doubt, with confidence dropping sharply across party lines. But here, Trump is optimistic and confident that Americans' economy keeps gaining ground, and the White House insists that China will suffer more. But then, investors aren't even convinced. Analysts say the tariffs make U.S.-China trade nearly impossible, risking a breakdown in supply chains that power everything from electronics to pharmaceuticals. Now, despite the economic fallout, Trump has continued to praise President Jinping, suggesting a deal is still on the table. Now, this is where we'll be handing it over to Mr. Tarh.
Yes, I want us to deviate a little bit and talk. I'm going to correspond with newsroom. There are some reports from the home front, which I want us to process. But let's deviate a little bit and talk about this trade war, especially with China. The retaliation from China, in my opinion, is that people seeing it from a different standpoint. That's my opinion, and I like to get your opinions on that. It's a proof of the fact that America has to do something and to do it very quickly. Because listening to Donald Trump, it is evident that China has been vicious globally. And so it is the fight of the titans. It's true that other nations are suffering, but the world is responding differently. Other countries are willing to negotiate. My question is, why is China totally against any form of negotiations? Barrister Fru, let me begin with you.
Thank you, Paddy. I am not an economist, but I am a lawyer and a political observer. And what I know about tariffs is that nobody wins a trade war. Nobody wins a trade war. Because in the final analysis, the populations of both countries, or all the countries that are fighting this trade war, are the biggest losers. Look, China, in my opinion, is very strategic. They have responded with 125 on the 145 that the Trump administration has levied on them. Why are they not bothered? Why are they not negotiating? You want to know that China has the biggest market in the whole world. The Chinese population, the populations of the world, even the United States, is one of the heaviest consumer of Chinese products. If you look at the balance of trade, what China receives from the United States is far less than what United States receives from China. That's why China has a leverage, and they will not respond. They have responded, and they have declared that they will not respond anymore on those tariffs. First, they have gone to sue the United States in the World Trade Organization for violating the understanding of the Convention on the World Trade Organization. Secondly, they know that the consumers in the United States are the final people who are going to suffer, and the United States are the heaviest consumer of Chinese products. I just listened this morning. The Trump administration is already doing exceptions on the tariffs on China, cell phones, electronics, and so on and so forth. What does that tell the world? That the United States is the greatest loser of the trade war between the United States and China. Even if China does not do anything else. And another thing that everybody is not looking at. If you go to the American market and you buy a shirt, you look at the collar, it's written made in China. It is not actually made by the Chinese people. The American industries operating in the Chinese free zone are part of the world market of products made in China. So the Chinese have this leverage not only on what they produce, but also on what the Americans who are operating from the Chinese territory in the Chinese free trade zone are producing and is being consumed not only by the United States, but all over the world. So the world population, particularly the United States, is the greatest loser in all these wars. I am not, like I said before, I am not an economist, but just looking at practicality, because I have a lot of shirts that when I buy, I look at the color, I see made in China. Most of the electronics you see, they say made in China. Who is the loser? because the tariffs will be reflected on the prices that we buy in the market, and the prices will shoot up and create inflation, and probably the economy will collapse. Look at what they are saying. In next year, the inflation rate is going to 6.8%. That is a red flag for the United States. That's why China has no interest. I repeat, China will have no interest to negotiate with the United States on this issue of tariffs. I don't see it happening.
Well, I want you to
don't forget,
understand.
the Chinese market is the biggest market in the world.
That's understood. It's like the Nigerian market is also big in the world. But Trump's argument, which is why Americans voted for him in a large majority, is the fact that America is being cheated. And I'm coming to you now, Barrister Mbeseha. Trump still believes, the MAGA movement in general still believes in this surgery, but just a few of them don't think the approach is accurate. The MAGA, both the common, the intellectuals, the politicians, the policymakers of the MAGA movement, they want to see that America is not cheated. We understand that America is being tariffed by China, but they want to have a free market zone in America. Americans don't want that. American taxpayers are not comfortable with that. Trump argues that by so doing, like Barrister Fru is predicting, the markets and production and so on and so forth, Trump thinks that it is good for America. Trump is not a globalist, he is a nationalist. But politicians are thinking differently. They are saying that, how far would you go with this? Trying to alienate America, or thinking that America can do some things by itself. The treaties is defiling treaties that have been signed and so on and so forth. I'm happy that Barrister Mbeseha brought in the aspect of the lawsuit that China has filed. But this is not the first time Trump is doing this. He did that during his first term, and the economy was much better than when Biden was there. So I'm trying to see if you can look at it from two angles. Barrister Mbeseha, please talk to us.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. But if you permit me, before I go to what these tariffs within China and America are all about, let me go back again to the last segment. We dealt with TPS. And
No,
I
we
would
are
like
going
to
to come back.
emphasize.
We'll come back with the TPS, Barrister.
No, let me
Barrister
finish what
Mbeseha.
I want to say, please. I will go to what you want, but let me say what I intend to say. You see, I said earlier that TPS is temporary protected status. Most of the people involved in the PTS are people who are already on deportation. And what I want to say is that the problem that those people face, that has brought them up to deportation, are sometimes self-inflicted wounds. Why? They were analyzing their TPS. I don't know how many of them who came to the United States as immigrants ever turned to us for advice. They never did. I'm talking from a privileged position. A few who came to us, they told us, well, I want to give me a document.
Barrister Mbeseha, I do not want us to make the discussion in a way that will be a little bit confusing. We will come back to that. And that thing you're going to say, you will definitely see.
I know you will come back. I wanted to. My train of thought is that I wanted to make this point clear. For Ambazonian immigrants who come to the United States, seek the right advice. It's free. Sometimes you get it free from us. Rather than go and wait until you're on deportation, and then we start to analyze your case here. But back
we'll
to
get
what
back
we want.
to that, Barrister Mbeseha. Let's focus on the.
I'm getting back to your tariff that you very much want. What Barrister Nsoh has said is perfectly right. You see, tariffs are a two-way traffic. Simply put, I buy from you and you sell to me. I sell to you and you buy from me. So tariffs are not something that you can use as a one-way traffic and defeat your opponent in trade. The WTO, which as Nsoh has mentioned, that's the World Trade Organization, is so structured, and there are sanctions when you violate the law. We don't know where those sanctions will apply. But as far as China is concerned, I doubt if these tariffs will succeed. All of us who are sitting here, the four of us, we live in the United States. We are familiar with something they call the dollar store. You go to the dollar store, you find something which is found in the departmental store, you buy it for $1. It is supposed to be coming from China. And so, what do you expect to find in that shop next time? What you call a dollar store, what you buy from there for $1, you buy it for $1.50 or $2. Who's affected? It is the consumer. Is it what the politician really wants? No. Again, the United States cannot threaten China in terms of trade because China has 1 billion consumers. My last checkup was among the 10 richest people in the world. There were about 5 Chinese. And so they have the billionaires who buy American cars. They have the peasants who buy American milk or something very cheap. So it's not a good, my opinion is that it's not a good adventure. The tariff war, or what they call the trade war, will probably only affect the poorest countries, among them countries. Because whereas they ship their bananas, for example, in the case of Cameroon, they ship their rubber, whatever thing, to the United States, they don't buy anything, they don't buy much from there that they could impose tariffs. And so they are handicapped by that. And so it is an eye-opener for Africans and other poor countries that trade is a double-way traffic. Don't give your things to the buyer where you have nothing to offer in return in terms of sales. And we have the resources to do that. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I doubt very much if they will succeed. China is standing its grounds, and they have reasons for standing their grounds. They have 1 billion consumers of American products. America has only 360 million consumers of Chinese products. Who loses in this battle in terms of numbers? I think the United States loses. Not in the sense that Mr. Trump might never feel the pain, because he doesn't need to go to a dollar store. He doesn't need to go to Walmart, where all these things are sold. But the ordinary American who depends on the dollar store, who depends on Walmart and departmental stores to buy cheap milk, to buy cheap whatever thing you call it, flour, decorations, will suffer. Will this have an effect in the future? I guess. The American political cycle is so short. 48 months is a very short period of time. Let us wait and see. Mr. Trump has already done 3, 4, 5, 6 months, getting to 6 months of his 48 months. And so we'll only judge it by what happens next, not by what Fox News says. Fox News can adore whatever policy they want. That's okay. But the individual American consumer, who includes you and me, and people even below our own level of economic standards, are the ones who will decide the future. 48 months is not a very long time in history. And so, as far as China is concerned, I very much doubt if this tariff war, trade war will succeed with them. China can go to the World Trade Organization, the WTO. They might win. Even if they win, Trump in his way will know him very well. He can say, I don't respect that nonsense. But time is short. People are suffering. People are benefiting, and others are suffering. Let's wait and see. But it is an eye-opener to Africans in particular, and the third world in general, that you don't sell your products to someone. You don't give it when they have nothing to sell to them. You don't have nothing. They have nothing to buy from you, or they have something to buy from you, or to take from you free. You don't have anything to buy from them. It must be a two-way traffic. Develop your own economy. Be able to challenge whoever is challenging you. That if you are taxing me on this, I will tax you also on this. That's the balance of trade. It's good is there. He has come out with these policies, detestable as we all may believe, but very, very educational for the future of the different world economies. Over to you.
Dr. Fred, please.
Well, I see it as a purposeful self-inflicted wound. And I'll give you my opinion about that. Now, the thing is, the demographics are not in favor of the United States. The people who are pushing these policies using Trump basically as their champion, the demographics are not on their side. The population of the world is 8 billion, more than 8 billion as we're speaking. China was initially the largest, the most populated nation, and India just overtook them in 2022. And the demographic will be going further more towards sub-Saharan Africa population that by 2100 will be about 45% of the world population if they don't succeed in reducing the fertility rate using vaccines and other methods. So basically, what is going on here is that the United States is isolating itself from the remainder of the population of the world. The population of the US is about 340 million. Compared to the 8 billion, that is a very small, insignificant number. Now, so when it gets to the point where the US even antagonizes its closest allies and neighbors like Canada and Mexico, and these close neighbors of the US are now seeking to trade, but with the rest of the world against the United States, I don't see how they're going to win. They are not going to win. It's a self-inflicted wound. Now, militarily, the United States is the strongest nation on earth. They spend about $900 billion a year in military equipment and all that stuff. The rest of the world put together, the next 20 countries don't come up to that. So if it is a matter of going to war using military weapons, the US is going to win. So after the Cold War, the US emerged as the strongest militarily. But unfortunately, this seems to be the method by which the US will weaken itself and then become weaker than it was. The Roman Empire was not overcome and conquered by a foreign nation. It corrupted itself and basically broke apart from within. This seems to be a method by which the US will be destroying itself. So what I'm trying to say here is that during the Clinton years, early on during the Clinton years, there were business people in the United States who has factories in the Rust Belt. That means Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, and you can add other states like Indiana. And these factories, when you work in the United States, you have to earn your income, you get retirement benefits, health insurance benefits, and all those things. And they felt that it was cheaper to relocate those businesses to China, where they can produce the same goods much cheaper, and then bring them back and sell in the United States. So many factories, many industries were relocated to China. China decided not to give up its communist system, but they decided to open up economically. And that has benefited China. So those industries have helped China to become economically very, very strong, where right now the US economy, GDP-wise, is about 26 going 27 trillion dollars a year. China is 19, but by 2050, which is in 25 years, China will overtake the United States, and by 2100, the US will be the third, after China and India. So now China is doing very well. The whole world experiences it. They are in Africa doing developments, doing a lot of things. They are friends with China. They have even come up with BRICS and trying to undermine the US money transfer system, the SWIFT. They're bringing on their own and even undermining the US reserve currency of the dollar. So when you have a smaller population of just 340 million people, and even of those 340 million people, you're only talking about 150 million of those pushing this agenda, you have already lost the case, because the rest of the world will gang up. That's why the Germans, they are refusing to buy Teslas and are rather buying, not only producing their own electric vehicles, but also rather buying Chinese electric vehicles because of these tariffs. So when American companies now become isolated, and the rest of the world collaborates as one against the United States, the US has no choice. They must buy Chinese goods because, like we said, even the MAGA hats are made in China. MAGA thinks that they put on themselves, calling themselves MAGA, they are all produced and made in China because it's cheaper there, like I mentioned, for those benefits purposes. So it's a self-inflicted wound that they will not win. China says they will not negotiate, but they will still go around and try to talk with them. But whatever the case, China is getting stronger and bolder, and the US will rather lose. This is a self-inflicted wound.
And this is exactly the point.
I said it is on purpose because, excuse me, I said it is on purpose. I use the word a purposeful self-inflicted wound for a good reason. When these tariffs were announced, it crashed the stock market from 46,000 Dow Jones to 37,000, which is almost 25% of the market fell down. And at that point, Trump said, this is the time to buy. That is for those wealthy people who can invest in the stock market, because when you buy, when shares are very cheap, when they start picking up, you make a lot of money. And so as soon as he reversed and the stock market picked up, he gathered some rich people around him and started saying that this guy made billions, this guy made so much money as the stock market picked up. So it was purposeful because the purpose is to enrich the rich. And it is a self-inflicted wound because the poor suffer.
I kind of get that side of the argument, but as we want to conclude this, to go back into the TPS, look at the government's foreign policy. I'm talking about Ambazonian government's foreign policy. Look at the dynamics of the advantages that America seeks to get with every chainsaw policy that they are implementing. I want us to look at it from, you brought in 3 points there, Dr. Fred, and it's important that we talk about it. When we mentioned the industries that were going into China. When Obama came, one of the things that made him to win over the office was that promise to bring back jobs to America. One of the ways that all candidates are seeking to bring jobs into America is to make sure that you do not go outside America. They felt that it was a bad policy for the U.S. supremacy to allow jobs to leave the United States of America. And China quickly embraced that. They have taken advantage of that. They have emboldened themselves, like you're saying now. America wants to stay on top economically, militarily, and otherwise. So they want to get jobs back into America. So some economists I've watched very closely are predicting that by so doing, it will make the United States economy stronger. There are those we were watching a documentary on ABC. We are streaming this documentary that shows that, okay, globalists would agree with some of the things you have said, and China is taking advantage of it. Africa is not benefiting anything from it. So we're looking at it from all different angles and like, okay, do you really want China to gain this so much strength in the world right now? Will the world be more secure? Because if you look at Europe is considering that if China gets this strength, financial strength we're talking about, will the world be more secure if it is not the United States of America? So there are lots of political things involved with this, which I want you people to comment before we make progress. Let's look at the politics of it. We've spoken a lot about the economy. Let's look at the political war that the tariffs are silently fighting. That's where I'm coming to you, Barrister Fru.
Yes, Paddy. Let me agree very, very sincerely with what Dr. Lobati has just said. It's a self-inflicted wound because if the United States believe that the American industrialist who displaced his industry from the United States to China and is making more money than he will ever make in the United States because of the cost of production the cost of labor and production, you will have to do, you have to come up with something else, not tariffs, not fighting a trade war, because those people who are now producing in China, from the United States who are now producing in China, will not come back to America just because you have imposed tariffs. They will still sell in America, but at a higher price. And those of us who are here, we have no choice, because we have to buy those products. The average American buys a winter jacket made in China. And that is produced by American industries in the free trade zone in China. And they are making a lot of money. How would you convince an American industrialist, a capitalist who is making money, to carry his industry back to America and make less money just by imposing tariffs? And secondly, politically speaking, the rest of the world is going to isolate the United States in terms of trade. Because, okay, the European Union is already looking at China. They are looking at India. They are looking at other countries. They are looking at Africa. They are shifting their trade now. They are planning to shift their trade towards those countries. Canada is no longer interested in treating with America if these tariffs stay. Mexico, the same thing. Don't forget that there are a lot of American industries, like the car industry, producing in Mexico. And I'm saying that the wounds of this trade war are heavy on America, and I want to, as far as the economy is concerned, Trump has dipped America into big trouble. It will reduce the power of the United States in the world. It will reduce its military might, because let's face it, there's some military equipment that the United States gets from other parts of the world. And if you insist on the trade, on the tariff on those countries like Germany and other places, they will prefer to ship to China, where they will make more money. And when they ship to China, China becomes stronger. China becomes stronger both economically and in the long run, militarily. So who's losing?
Yeah, Barrister Fru, you're actually talking about comparative cost advantage, which economists will agree with you, and that's what we were taught in school. But we suddenly realizing that the concept of comparative cost advantage, which was greatly sponsored by globalization, is not very true. It was a manipulation to institute things that are not necessary. The long and short is the poor countries are not benefiting. But let's look at it politically. It is the fight of the titans. Will the war, Barrister Mbeseha, be safer if China becomes more powerful? We know the Black Sea, the alliance with China, Russia, if that becomes possible. And Trump is insisting, listen, we need to bring back jobs into America. We just want a fair trade. We have been cheated. Trump is saying that we have been cheated. We just want that if you are tariffing, you're giving us a tariff of 10%, we should be able to give you 10% in the United States of America too. And that's a blind side of the conversation that a lot of analysts are not looking at it. But we've argued that enough. Lots of people have argued that economy enough. Let's look at it on the aspect of power mongering. Who wants to stay on top? Money helps you to stay on top. And if it continues to go the way it's going, without the shift that Trump is strategically putting, we may have China economically stronger in the future. Would that make the world safer? That's my concern. We can go all day with this economy. I'm looking at it the war order and who is in charge. What is Mbeseha?
Well, when you say safer, I don't know whether you mean economically being safe or militarily being safe. That's not my
In
concern.
combination. In combination.
I think for us to properly understand what Donald Trump is doing, he's selling a political agenda. What was his political agenda? To make America great again. That's the key word. To make America great again, economically, militarily, and otherwise. That was his campaign strategy. But let us agree that America was very great some times ago. But who made America great again? Was it the select few white people, Caucasians, or who made America great? That Trump wants to bring it back. People who made America great were not they were not the white Caucasians. No. They included the blacks, Africans, who dug the tunnels, who built the railway. They included Japanese, who worked as slaves in the industries. They included Mexicans, who worked in the farms. That's what made America great. So, with the exclusion of these people, can America be great again, in the words of Donald Trump? For me, the answer is doubtful. I doubt if that would be. But coming to your question, whether we shall be safer or safer under the Chinese, the battle is not between China and America. They're just part of the battle. Look at it globally. It is a battle of survival. And as I said in my earlier segment, for us to survive as countries around the world, as Africans as a continent, as Cameroonians, as Ambazonians, we've had this debate before. We have to stand on our own legs and negotiate contracts on our own terms. Where those contracts are being performed by Chinese, by Americans, by Japanese, by the British, by Europeans, we have to be able to stand our own ground. That's what it's all about. You talk about buying cars and so on. I thought the last thing I saw was they're making electric cars in Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important.
An electric car bought in Burkina Faso different from the one made
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C. So we
Yeah.
have to stand our ground. What Trump is doing is very, very distasteful, but it is a good lesson for other countries. Around the world, the people who have stood up to this trade war strongly and forcefully are the Chinese, because they have something to tell America, we are not going to bend.
Yeah.
You too will bend. They are
Yeah.
the Canadians, because Canada can tell you, well, we have electricity here. If you join with us, we cut it off from your New York. You have nothing left there. So it is
Yeah.
because these partners in trade are able to stand on their own. They grow, knowing that you are not going to be dependent on your life. We're dependent on America, dependent on China, or dependent on anything else. People should evolve. Who knew? I did not personally believe they could make electric cars in Burkina Faso. Talk less of making it in Douala. They don't make even bicycles in Douala. So, if Burkina Faso, which was rated one of the poorest countries in the world, is able to challenge the status quo, be it the French, the Europeans, the Americans, everybody can. Because every independent country in the world has something to offer. You're independent because you have something to offer to the other people. If Ambazonia if we go to Boer today, I can tell you, in spite of our size, in spite of our population and geographical size, we have something to offer. That Nigeria sitting next to us with 300 million people will to challenge us. They will come and exploit our oil. They will come and exploit our highways from Manfi to Calabar on our terms.
Yeah.
And so that is what it is all about. It's a good lesson. I dislike what Trump is doing, but I like that it is being done so that our eyes can open. We will not give our cocoa to you because you need that cocoa. I don't many people in Cameroon drink cocoa.
There will be fair trade.
We're not saying that to you.
There will be fair trade.
Because the coffee is a delicacy to you here in Europe and the Americas. But it's not a delicacy. You need it from us. If you have to buy it from us, we'll tell you the price for which that you pay for it. As simple as that. Everybody has something to offer. And so the idea that somebody can sit there and threaten the world, that they will do the world will behave on his or her terms, is just a fallacy. It doesn't work. It can work for a while, but it will not work forever. That's my contribution, sir.
Yeah, and I think that the nationalist movement, though a lot of people in the world don't like it, but I think it also helps to strengthen factions of the world and regions of the world. So people, instead of looking at what America is doing to empower themselves, you should look at how to empower yourself. I like that point you've made there, Barrister Mbeseha. Dr. Fred, do you think the world will be safer if China becomes economically stronger?
It depends on what you mean safe. If safe means war, let's go back and look at the past 50, 70 years. America led most of the wars all around the world. Of all the nations on earth, I prefer being in the United States. But America is not heaven. And America is not perfect. And the American government is not like an ideal angel that everybody should admire. And Trump is exemplifying that. So when you talk of safety, meaning war or whatever, let's go back and look. You know, after the conference of Berlin, America was not even figuring anywhere. The Europeans divided our land. Then the Germans started the Second World War among themselves in Europe over there. The British fought. That's when America emerged to come and support the British and defeated the Germans. Unfortunately, it mutated into the Second World War. And again, America had to come and support the British. And after that, the British became silent, and America emerged as a very powerful nation and has led most of the wars since then. The Korean War, America, after they crushed the Germans, subdued the Italians, they went to conquer Japan, and they subdued Japan and forced Japan to be Western style. Then they went to Korea, where you had the Korean War that led to the North and South Korea with the armistice, because the North Korea was for the communists. And that conflict was literally, the person who was in there trapped was the United States. And since then, you've had multiple other wars. The Vietnam War, that the French were crushed and pulled out. America went and fought. And it's the story in this world, in this country, about what America did in Vietnam. And after that, you had all the conflicts in the Middle East, where you have Israel entangled, and Israel and America are like two people wearing one trouser. One has one foot in the left side, and the other one has the other foot in the right side. So whenever Israel is going to war, America is in it. So they too instigate and fight all the wars all around the world. So during the Reagan, during the the 70s, right through to Jimmy Carter with the Iran affair, where American embassy was humiliated, and that has basically led to the hatred between the US and Iran seen still today. And then Reagan came, the Iran-Contra thing. He fought in South Africa, in South America. He bombed Saddam, Libya. And then, of course, then his successor, Bush 1, came and started with the Iraq War against Saddam Hussein, the first Iraq war, where you saw the highway of death to Baghdad. And then, of course, Clinton came, and his own war was in Bosnia, in Central Europe, in Yugoslavia. A lot of fighting there. Clinton was involved. Then after that, Bush 2 came, and then it was the second Iraq war where Saddam Hussein was killed. And then, of course, Afghanistan and all of this. And then Obama came, and the Libyan war that we talk about. And then Trump came, and there was, as they say, no war, but gave Israel the free hand to do anything he wanted in the Middle East. And then Biden came, and Biden has had to deal with this war between Ukraine and the United States and Russia. And then, of course, now Trump is there and threatening to go and bomb Iran. That's why they're trying to be saying that they're talking. What I'm trying to say is that if you go back the past 50 to 70 years, the country that has led the most war using military weapons on earth is the United States. So it's not like even China, even though you had the Cold War, or Russia. So if you are talking in terms of the country to fear most, I think the two countries to fear most are the United States and Israel in the Middle East, because those are the warmongers and those are the people that go to war all the time and cause all the havoc around the world. But as like I said, I prefer living in the United States than in any of those countries. So I think that the world has a destiny, how it moves. And each nation also has a destiny. The world will continue to move the way it's going. I believe that the US will lose its position of preeminence in the world. We are seeing it now in this self-inflicted wound, and it will progress to the point where, like I mentioned, by 2100, as all predictions, you can read if you care, the strongest economy will be China, the second will be India. Nobody talks about India, but India is emerging. Right now, India economy is stronger than Britain and France. It's only Germany that is still superseding India. But India is catching up. So by 2100, which is 75 years from now, most of us will be dead. But China will be first, India will be second, the United States will be third, Indonesia, that nobody is even mentioning, will be the fourth, and Nigeria behind, just by Ambazonia, will be the fifth strongest economy on planet Earth.
And that would be a powerful market for Ambazonia to
Nigeria would be double the population-wise, double the size of the United States by 2100. The US will be about 400 million. Nigeria will be 800 million. What I'm trying to say is that the demographics is not on the side of the United States. Whether you brag about the military weaponry or not, they will lose their preeminence. And that also is going to happen to the European nations, because you know that the demographic of the indigents is not in their favor. They are decreasing. The foreigners are going to increase over there. Just as here in the United States, they make all this noise. If you go around, look at all the factories, all the places, most of the work is being done by foreigners. So all of that is just talk. Demographic is not in their favor.
Amazing. Apparently, Mbeseha, you want to...
Paddy?
Mbeseha, you want to please do that briefly so we can move on.
Yes, very briefly, very briefly. Just as Trump launches a tariff war or the trade war, for the first time, China is talking to Japan, is talking to South Korea, and to India. And if that happens, and the United States is antagonizing Europe with its trade wars. You see, the European Union is now meeting and declaring the declarations coming from Europe are not to the interest of the United States. We will not rely on the United States anymore. We have to look elsewhere. That is a statement that is very, very important. And it plays on the... Wait, let me finish. It plays on the power of the United States. Because if these countries, if China becomes a world power, we're talking about the United States militarily stronger than China and so on. That's for now. If you look at the military investment in China, look at the way the military is being invested, the Chinese military. If the Chinese military liaisons with Russia and gets technological know-how from China to improve on its army, coupled with South Korea and Japan, and the United States loses the support of Europe, because without Europe, the United States is not a power to reckon with. And if they lose Europe, United States will fall in the classification that Dr. Lobati has just given. Not in our lifetime, but you see, that is the balance of power.
This is where I want to come in right now, because it brings us back to this discussion of TPS, which we have to talk about. We have to also look at President Sarkozy's diplomatic endeavors, facilitated the letter by Mbeseha shared to the public. I think you're going to tell us more why you shared that letter to the public. Was it to brag about what your government is doing? will need to know that by Mbeseha. But let's talk about how U.S. partnership would help to strengthen America. I don't think that the Trump administration is ignorant of that. Look at Ambazonia, that is in the epicenter of the richest region in the world in terms of natural resources. And I would say it is the jewel of Russia, China, and America. There's a war there, and we're positioning ourselves. Now, President Sako has the possibility of fighting for Ambazonians not to be deported. But there is a propaganda behind TPS. If it goes through the way it is being predicted, it will mean that the conflict in Ambazonia is at a level that Cameroon can attain to it. Because though it was implemented by Biden, this was something that was a law that was passed by Trump during the Trump's administration. Let's remember, it was renewed twice by Biden, or implemented first by Biden, renewed once again by Biden. But the Trump administration did AGOA, suspended Cameroon from AGOA. The Trump administration initially is the administration that worked for TPS. Let's not forget that. So let's look at it from our advantage point right now. We have letters coming in from 22 congressmen, and it's in front of Trump's table. I'm made to understand by the Secretary of Communications and IT that they will continue to mount pressure. 30 days is sufficient time to change the mind of the State Department and the White House. But I want us to look at all of these factors. President Sako's policies, foreign policy, and so on and so forth. I'll begin with you, Barrister Mbeseha, before Barrister Fru, and then Dr. Lobati. If you were to advise Ambazonians that are having, how do I call it, funny debates on social media about diplomacy. You have some people trying to go to corridors. You have seen Saksamotos. We have seen many things happening. We've seen people organizing diplomatic outreaches and already labeling themselves diplomats. If you were to do some comparison, and some of these individuals tried sabotaging the efforts of the government. If you were to do some comparison, you were to look on the TPS. You were to tell us why you shared the TPS, the letter publicly. What will you say?
Well, I think we should understand what it is all about. You know, for me, for those who know me, especially on these platforms, I deal with historical facts. I don't deal with propaganda. So that letter, which I've posted out there, is not propaganda, it's factual. The signatories are there. They are not imaginary. They are factual things. And so it is a fact, and I've explained earlier that the American government, the system in America deals with the Congress, from which the letters came. It deals with the administration, which is the one to grant the TPS or to enforce it. And it deals with the judiciary. So what we put out there is not propaganda at all. How did it come about? People might dispute, but to the best of my knowledge, that work from Congress was highly done, 99% by this government. Suppose, for example, the TPS thing does not work. If tomorrow they deport everybody, in other words, they say nobody benefits from TPS, is that the end of the journey? No, it's not the end of the journey. The Ambazonian relationship with the American government is not based on the TPS alone. It is based on many different aspects of diplomacy. The American State Department, stretching from Trump, one, to Biden, one, the Trump too, recognizes that Ambazonia has a problem. It's well documented in the State Department documents. It's not imagination, it's not propaganda. And so even if we don't succeed in the TPS, that is not the end of our diplomatic venture. The world has become a global village. Is Ambazonia noticed around America in different forms of interest? They are. Is Ambazonia important to America? Strategically, of course we are. It's not propaganda. Are we important to the American government, to the American administration? Economically, we are. It's not propaganda. It's a fact. And so, being a global village, and I said the world is a world of interest. America administration has been shown through Trump 1, Biden, and Trump 2, has an interest in Ambazonia. The worst case scenario, which is possible, is that we're not going to succeed in every single endeavor. We might lose the TPS. I'm not saying that we'll lose it. We might. But if we lose it, again, that is not the end of the journey. We hope and I insist that the American government, even after 4 years of Trump, will be lucky to have it end by the end of 4 years of President Trump. In fact, 44 months left. If it doesn't end there, the next administration, I can guarantee you, they would be aware. They will still continue to deal with Ambazonia. And until the Ambazonian issue is solved, the world at large will not be at peace. The Americans are taking action. Is it that the British don't know? They know it. Is it that the French don't know? They know it. Is it that the Russians don't know? They know it. They are aware of this problem. And so let us give ourselves the best opportunities. If we fail here in terms of TPS, I insist, it will not be the end of the journey. Because the TPS by itself is not a solution to our problem. It's temporary protected status. If you are on deportation, you are protected temporarily from being deported. It was not the end of your problem, which I had said earlier, that those who even fell there under deportation, they might have fallen into that trap because they didn't have the right orientation. And I said earlier, what is the right orientation? We Ambazonians have this theory of saying, that one nothing, that one nothing. Once you land in the United States, that one nothing. They forget that there's a time that they will fall back on us. Those of them who don't know them, those of us who are on that TPS, who are already on deportation, they have a mind-searching question to answer. How many of them even contacted us in this structure to see if they could get help from us? They did not. We're now trying to help them when they are on the life-saving wire. They are about to die, which is deportation. Had they sought opinion, had they sought our assistance, might be, just might be, they would never have found themselves where they are. And I emphasize on this because I've dealt with that thing from deportation where people have come here and some of them have sought our advice. And then they will tell us, well, they seek advice when they're already on deportation or when they're already gone far into the process. And sometimes even when we give them the advice, they feel who have come. They say, no, my brother, Ambazonia, my uncle, my sister, told me to go to ABCD and get attestation from them to do our asylum cases. These are people who are on asylum, who are illegal immigrants. TPS, these people, they're not dealing with you, the man was legally here. They're not dealing with you, a naturalized Ambazonian, naturalized American. No. And so my appeal is that, as I said, these people who are on TPS already, a good number of them are on self-inflicted wounds. They never sought our advice, which was supposed to be free. It is always free. Where I work, that's always been free. No dime paid. They went their way. They found themselves where they are. And we are here fighting to save them. As a lesson going forward, if you believe in Ambazonia, contact us as soon as possible. We are not 100% sure of helping you, but you stand a better chance when things begin to get worse before we get to a lifeline and now on. And so, again, the world is a global village. Ambazonia, looking so small, is not insignificant in terms of world politics, in terms of American interests in particular. If it was so insignificant, the French would let us go. If it was so insignificant, the Nigerians would help us go away. If it was so insignificant, the British would never have recommended what they recommended. They wanted to exploit us. They wanted to deal with these people. They wanted to assimilate us, in the words of President Paul. But they found that this little juicy meat was not going to be swallowed as easy as this. And so we're not insignificant. We are still relevant. We will remain relevant to the present administration in the United States and to the future administration. And so let us not be discouraged. Even, again, in the worst case scenario, if we fail in the TPS endeavor, that's not the end of the journey. Over to you.
This is amazing, elaborate. I think you would have spoken for all the panelists on the aspect of the government position and what the government is willing to do for the people of Ambazonia. For those who are watching us, we're opening the phone lines. You can see the number on the screen is only on WhatsApp. You can make that call. We're going to have to take some questions. A lot of, you may have a family member and you want to know how you can get immediate help from the government. Because I'm looking at this document in front of me. We have the government. In fact, there are those who don't believe it. Maybe Barrister Mbeseha is saying it now. I would say I am humbled to say that President Sako would have placed me in a position where I am able to see when he has meetings with his people. Maybe because sometimes I have to organize some things technically. So I'm brought in to help to do that.
On ABC.
Mbeseha, please, you may want to not take when we. So please, gentlemen, put your phones on vibration so that we don't have this broadcast being in. Please just put your phones on silent or vibration so we can finish this discussion. Look at the people that the government was able to assign, because like we said earlier on, this letter couldn't have been signed. The people couldn't have been in their rooms and just signed. This is not the first time we're seeing the government doing things like this. It's quite instrumental. I want us to look at it from the point, if this number of congressmen and women will agree to send a letter to have these people stay in America, we have about 30 days to go, or less than 30 days. Can this still pull some traction? Can it hold some actions? Can it influence the law? Can the judge rely on this to counter some of this and all of that and back and forth? The way the law works in America and the way we have seen things unfolded. If Venezuelans have not been deported like Trump would have wanted, except for the criminals, do you think those from the Cameroons, especially the victims of the war in Ambazonia, will just have a free flight? Those who are watching us and you want to ask a question, you can ask your questions as we get the commentaries from these people. I want to take the commentary of Barrister Fru briefly and Dr. Lobati before we take the first call. Please, Barrister Fru, talk to us.
Paddy, that Ambazonia, the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, that is looking like a yam, is sitting on the world, one of the world's richest country, economic power in the world. It is sitting on it. It is not only of interest to the United States, it is also of interest to the Russians, it is also of interest to the Chinese, and it is also of interest to those who need us. I'm looking at Western Europe, the European Union, France, Germany, Italy, and so on. Ambazonia has been ignored by the rest of the world when this war started. It's only the United States that I can remember beginning with President Trump, that has taken actions that are favorable to the liberation of Ambazonia from the French and La République du Cameroon. This, our government, the government of the Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, has taken upon itself to side with America and present to America what Ambazonia represents. Biden did not quite catch it, but he left everything that Trump did for us intact, which was good. That is why we always say American diplomacy does not change radically. But Trump has come in his second term and has changed the face of diplomacy in America. He has shaken its allies, including France, in such a way that France is now afraid to lose Ambazonia. That's why for the last 6 months, the two French ambassadors, the French ambassador in Cameroon has visited Ambazonia twice.
Twice. For the last 3 months. 3 months. 3 months.
The last 3 months, twice.
Yeah.
And that is telling.
Yeah.
Because they have seen the handwriting on the wall. TPS is only for those of the Ambazonians that found themselves in the United States as a result of this war or otherwise, who have lost whatever status they have, or they are still pending, that have taken advantage of belonging to TPS. If we lose TPS, it is not a catastrophe, because one, those that we are fighting to make sure that they stay on the TPS are they don't have any interest in this war that we are fighting. Most of them are young people, and they don't contribute in any shape or form to the liberation struggle. I am saying that the youth of Ambazonia that are giving up putting their life on the line at the home front, the youth in the United States are not seeing it. And they are the beneficiaries of TPS. Like Mbeseha says, losing TPS will not be the end of our positioning with the United States. We are fighting for liberation. And I want to tell you that the Russians and the Chinese and others are looking at this, and they are worried. Especially in Europe, especially the Europeans, they are worried. And if they are worried, it is because Ambazonia, as small as it is sitting on the richest part of the world.
Amazing.
Part of the richest part of the world. And secondly, no, let me finish. Secondly,
that should be last.
Secondly, these people who are in the United States and are benefiting from TPS, some of them are even talking evil of the revolution that we are fighting. The young people, they sit in bars, they sit in drinking spots, and they talk evil of this struggle. But we are, as a government, we have an interest to protect all our people, no matter their shades of opinion.
No matter
that's why we are fighting to ensure. Yes, that's why we are fighting to make sure that the TPS stays. But they should also know that the TPS is not the thing that will free Ambazonia. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Dr. Fred, I want to get a brief comment to you on that when it has to do with efforts that are being made. You are among all on these platforms. Are those who believe in this vision. You have proven that in giving your substance unwaveringly to assist these efforts? Will we have more than 20 lawmakers in America soliciting to Donald Trump to consider extending the TPS? And just a few days later, there's a counter. We have some days to go. The Secretary of State for Communications and IT believes that it's a political statement. Ambazonians will not be victims. And he has sent out a word to encourage them, and that the government is making efforts to lobby lawyers. Do we think this can gain some traction within the few days that are left into May and probably June, where Trump might be enforcing this if nothing changes?
You know, we're dealing with a different kind of American government this time. The person who is heading this government is erratic and is not easily predictable. So if you think you have an idea of how he's going to decide, I don't think so. It does not matter how many members of Congress or senators are for it, or even Republicans are for it, you cannot tell. One thing that is predictable is that this president only respects those who, as he puts it, kiss his ass and basically boost his ego, make him feel important, tell him that he defeated Biden in the last election, that kind of thing. If you don't do that, then he doesn't listen to you and he does his own thing. What I think is that, like I said in a different program before, I don't judge American governments by what they are saying. I judge them after they have finished. So we will just wait it out and see what comes at the end. I don't think it's predictable. Yes, Ambazonia is going to succeed. If we care, if we want the United States to come in with this administration, the only way is to boost his ego, kiss his ass, as he says. The Democratic Republic of Congo is already doing that. The Tshisekedi has already come out and is willing to do a deal for America to have the rights to exploit all the mineral resources in the Congo, which they have been doing even since the time of Mobutu. So I'm not sure that this makes any difference. So anyway, it's my personal opinion. I'll wait and see. If you want to continue to boost his ego, you may have a hearing. But otherwise, you can. It doesn't matter how many members of Congress. It does not matter what the judiciary does. The judiciary does not have the military force, the police force to enforce their decisions.
That's amazing there. So politicians have listened to you and they're getting their strategy. So we'll be taking the first call. We'll have our first caller, who is the Secretary of State for the Department of Women's Services, Dr. Patience Lobati. She would like to make a contribution. Can you hear me?
Abiedo.
Lord Jesus. Yes. I hope Marwin is forgiving me, and Dr. Julius is also forgiving me. Dr. Patience Abiedo, please talk to us.
Yeah. Thank you. Great panelists. Thank you so much. This provoked me to call. I hope you're hearing me clearly.
Yes, everyone can hear.
Mm-hmm. What provoked me to call, really, I was incited by what you said. You said that Trump was the one who started TPS during his presidency. As a matter of fact, when Trump was president the first time, 2017 to 2021, during his presidency, he really attempted to stop all TPS programs. He was not for TPS at all. He tried to block them, and I think what happened was federal judges were able to thwart that. So I wanted to make that correction. So TPS, Total Protection Service, only has been, for Cameroon and some other countries, has really been mostly because of the Biden administration. But to support what the lawyers have said and Dr. Lobati, it is true that TPS is a temporal thing for us, Southern Cameroonians. Our goal is really to have recognition. But there's one thing that I am afraid of. If you look at the statement where they are giving reasons why they should stop TPS for Afghanistan and Cameroon, they seem to think that the circumstances that were necessary for TPS no longer prevail.
That's my concern.
So if they are thinking that those circumstances no longer prevail, then they're not giving our struggle the importance that it has in terms of what is happening on the ground, the killings, the human rights abuses, and all the like.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that those about 34 Congress people that signed that document on April 6th could be able to justify, so that Trump can probably have some sympathy and let this program exist, and also be able to listen to us for the what we really want, which is not a temporal situation. We want recognition. So that was a comment I just wanted to make, and thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you go, Dr. Patience, because I have some questions for you. There's something you have said which I'm going to get the lawyers to react when you would have left, so that we don't keep you for too long. You mentioned something about the concern, the credibility of the internationalization of our struggle globally. It's put to question if these people are deported back home, meaning that Cameroon is indirectly telling the world, listen, we can handle this situation, and therefore help might not come, because TPS was some sort of a diplomatic push or shift for the people of Ambazonia. And therefore the government should go back to the drawing books and make some things happen, because this should not happen. Let me distract this a little bit. It's kind of related. In the few days we've had arguments within the Ambazonia community. The diplomats and picture diplomats, Sachs and Moto, Dr. Mungwa called them some names, and a couple of Ambazonians. There's a lot that has happened. And these arguments, probably I would say quarreling from some who are short-sighted, has escalated so badly to the extent that statements have been made. And your department, I was pleased when I read your document. I'm going to react after this platform. As an individual here, I can only speak officially. But then your department has reacted with a press release. I would like to go through some aspects of this press release so that you can answer some questions. I'll read it very quickly. I hope I can do that. You said the Department of Women's Services reacts to the vulgar audios of Mrs. Iringwa. Ambazonians were pleased because for a long time they have been expecting to see the full function of government when cabinet members act in very demean manner. And this was laudable. I want to congratulate you for that, Dr. Patience. So 3 audios by Mrs. Iringwa were shared in most Ambazonia WhatsApp fora on April 8, 2025. These audios were directed at Dr. Mungwa, that's the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, in reaction to write-ups meant to educate Ambazonians. I read those write-ups. Even before Dr. Mungwa published those write-ups, he sent it to me first. I was pleased and humbled that he did so. And I'm like, this is good. There was nothing wrong in those write-ups. He sent it to me and said we can share it. That's how we started sharing it. And then, so we shared among Ambazonians what the government has been doing in the sphere, because there was a fake propaganda that was thwarting the efforts of the government, because you had a certain groups of individuals who are proven to be recalcitrant, trying to project themselves. So unfortunately, Mrs. Iringwa's responses were appalling, disgusting, troubling, to say the least. As Secretary of State for the Department of Defense Services, and in view of the vulgarity that was opposed in these utterances, I would be remiss if no official statement was made to address this on call for attacks on Secretary Mongwa. So you said, number one, the language used by Mrs. Iringwa was inappropriate, tasteless, unprofessional, unladylike. Okay? The language was embarrassment to us, the women in the official government positions, and those who look up to us as leaders. The language may incite disrespect for our government by some in the international milieu, as Mrs. Iringwa is the Secretary of State for the Department of National Treasury. And this has been my cry for too long. With cabinet members. So this prayer, this particular letter from you, Dr. Patience, is like an answer prayer that I've been praying for almost 2 years. So the feed you said, the language and content indicate that Mrs. Iringwa may not be in support of the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, its current leadership structure. The language and content reflect outright bullying of one government official by another. The language and content of the audios are examples par excellence of harassment by a government official. Well, the grammar is much, but I would say this is not the first time that we have evidence to that. What took you so long, and why is this particular situation of great concern that you thought you would have to react? You've not reacted to similar situations before. Dr. Patience, doctors.
Well, when I called today, I really wanted to talk about TPS, but since you put me on the spot,
please,
I'm going to respond. Point of correction, we have made former write-outs in the past. Remember when Chris Arnold in 2021 made some statements about in fact, Iringwa herself, we came out with an official letter to that effect to explain that those type of language will not be tolerated, and we directed it to the president, and we had a copy for the Amazonian people to see. And then we also had a write-out in 2022 or 2023 when, and if I mention this name now, I'm sure he's going to come out and start attacking me, when Dr. Sita also had some very problematic language used on a lady, Mali, something to that effect. So this is the second time that we're writing something. And we thought we should. We will not be writing only when we have experienced something from a male against a female. We have to write when a female, a woman says something vulgar, uses vulgar language against the male. So we thought that this was appropriate, and that the department should be able to be neutral when things like this come upon us. And I hope that answers your question. And in fact, a lot of response, people reacted to a lot of speeches and all the like, but we realized that something on paper that transcended time was imperative.
I think I'm happy. I'm very comfortable with your reaction. And like I said, I'm not done with you, because since you're I think you are the only cabinet member. Barrister Fru is always here with us, so he's a usual commentator. I'm happy that we have this is one of the most important programs in Ambazonia, including your efforts you do and I want to applaud you for your consistency on ABC Amba TV. The precedents you have set I just wish other government officials will learn from you to understand that you may try to disconnect your emotions from what you do with Ambazonians. So there's a lot of questions I want to ask you, Dr. Patience, so that by the time you leave, the lawyers will have a lot of things to say, and Dr. Fred, who is here. So much I'd like to ask you, and I'm happy with this move. I'm happy with the clarification you have made. You did it before for Chris Arno, you did it for Dr. Tita, you've done it again because of Iringwa. But that's what your department is doing. Are you comfortable with the fact that the government, as the body, the government, the federal government, has not, I don't want to say has been unable, but the federal government has not distanced themselves on paper from such acts by individuals, high government officials, by individuals within cabinet? Are you comfortable? I know Barrister Fru wants to comment, but I would like you to answer before he comes in.
Well, I have to be careful what I say because I don't want to say something that disrespects the leadership. I know the president has come out time and time again and addressed things one way or the other in related matters, and will say that to the effect that people are volunteers in this government. Yeah. And when they cease functioning, people will know that they are not functioning, and it's just an answer. We know exactly where these people are. On the other hand, yes, I would probably prefer an official statement, one way or the other, to let us know exactly where these individuals stand. To be honest with myself, I would prefer that. But the president, in his wise wisdom, knows exactly what he's doing. I will act differently, he will act differently. Maybe if I were president, I would say, it looks like X, Y, Z are the popular with us. X, Y is because of doing ABC, so we will let them go. But I'm not the president.
Yeah, this is a very sensitive topic, and it's been happening for several months. But I'll get to you. You will definitely react to that. Let me ask Dr. Patience the last question so we can give. I wish I had your picture. I'll just put it. I didn't prepare for you. If I knew you were going to call, I would have prepared your image to put on the screen so that people are not looking at my face as you're talking. They are seeing you talking. I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to put you on a very hot seat on this. I wish the next time I have even the vice president, he will not have it easy with me. Especially Dr. Mungo, I'm planning to interview him one of these days on similar issues. He would have to answer a lot of questions. But this is the point. This has been happening for a while. Since a lot of it is in public, I want to appreciate all Ambazonians that have come out unwaveringly to attack these false claims. But this is where it is right now. Talk to us the state of your department. I know your department has been one of those departments that have been attacked or that has had a lot of issues from same individuals. There's been a split within that department. The Amazonian people are looking up to you. The government is looking up to you. Your leadership, I would say, has been commendable for the past 6 years or 5 years. And I'm like, okay, what is the state of this department now? Can you tell the people of Ambazonia that you have major figures in government that are supposed to be an integral part of your department acting indecently publicly? What is the state of your department? Can Ambazonians rely on the Department of Women's Services for any decency as we do this work?
The simple answer is that the Department of Women's Services is strong. We have reliable women who are dedicated to stay with. They work in their own different fields. Some of them are members of the House. Some of them are members of other different LGAs and counties. But we pull together as women for that common cause that we all believe in. So if you have one or two bad cocoyams that you take out at the right time, the achieve will not get spoiled. So we believe that we have done that, and we will continue to do that. We had a meeting. We had our first meeting of the quarter about a week or so ago, and we discussed issues on how to move forward. And we believe that we have a solid agenda for the rest of the year. And but I'll remind you that some of these women have been here for a long time. They are tired. It's exhausting to be in a leadership position, and they have families that they have to take care of, and so it's not easy. But they are staying the course, as we see on the horizon, and we hope that this year we will do what we always do things in a better way, and hope that we get to Buea sooner than later. So the few people that may end up spoiling our department, we have a way of dealing with them, and that's how we move on this journey.
All right, thank you very much. You just used a terminology to describe whatever you were saying. I had to mute the lawyers because Mbeseha was bringing a lot of noise, and I'm not sure if the audience were getting you very clearly. I'll be unmuting them right now. There's a demonstration you have made that really explains what you're trying to say. A bad cocoyam can spoil the achieve, but it brings a very wrong memory to the minds of Ambazonians who knew all the terminologies that Chris Ano would employ at the time he wanted to plot his coup, you know. But saying all of that, just to conclude, are you saying were you comfortable with the attendance of that meeting? Did they have quorum? Did all women in government, especially all women in cabinet, did they participate in this departmental meeting for women?
No, our meetings have never had all women in government participate. We've had key women participate, and then we, of course, have minutes that we will share with the rest. But as as the years have gone by, or the most recent meetings, we've missed some key women in government, and without calling names, you people can guess who those key women are. We've missed them, and they know themselves. But that will not stop the running of the meeting of the department, because these key women in government really do not do anything for the department. They don't contribute financially for the department, so it makes no difference whether they attend or not.
Amazing. Okay, Dr. Patience, thank you for joining us, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. That was the Secretary of State for the Department of Women's Services, Dr. Patience Abudu, the mastermind behind the horizon, talking to the people of Ambazonia. Thank you very much. It was a great delight to have you this afternoon. Barrister Fru, you have been boiling to react to certain issues. Now the floor is yours.
Yes, Paddy, I've been boiling because you made a wrong statement. The communique you just read comes from government. The Secretary of State for Women's Affairs is a member of the cabinet. It's a member of the cabinet, and when she puts out a communique, that communique must have been vetted before it's published. So that is a government reaction. Number two, there are certain conducts. We're dealing with a revolutionary government. We're not the real government that some of us seem to think. We're dealing with a revolutionary government. And there are certain actions that when a member of the cabinet takes that are treacherous or treasonable vis-a-vis the government, like creating parallel structures to compete with the government, like representing, taking actions that are not authorized or not actions that are supposed to be taken by the central, by the head of the government. Those are actions that put you, who has done it, you exclude yourself from the government, because that government will no longer treat with you, will no longer consult you, will no longer ask you to do certain things, and therefore, by operation of your actions, you are put yourself out of the cabinet. That I'm talking now like a lawyer and the Attorney General. It is not in the interest of this government. Let me finish. Please.
I want to articulate a statement you have made, so you can continue.
Yes.
You said,
yes.
You made me to forget that statement. You said by the action you have done, you have put
by your very actions, you have excluded yourself from government, from the politics of this government. And
that's not a lie. I don't want to say. Repeat it again. By the treacherous actions of your
by their treacherous actions against the government that you are serving, and by running and by creating certain structures that compete with the structures of government, and taking actions that the head of government is supposed to take, or a department that is managed by the head of government is supposed to take. You have effectively put yourself out of the government. So that government, we're talking about a revolutionary government here. That government, if it was in the days of the PLO or the Colombian Revolution or whatever, nobody will hear about you again or see you physically again. But we are in a civilized world now, operating under a civilized country, respecting the civilized the laws and regulations of that country. We have no other option but just to exclude you from any participation in the cabinet, without saying so, without giving you any assignment, without asking you any questions as it concerns whatever department you were doing, and just create something that some part of that department that will function without you. It's an indication that you are no longer part of that government. And it calls into question your loyalty to that government. And also, the head of that government has the duty to clear his name so that nobody can say it is because of the head of that government that you did it. That's why Dr. Sako very carefully get people up to September to put anything that you think you have against him
on paper
by September. That is a deadline for anybody who is acting contrary to this or contrary to this government to bring that issue to the cabinet, to the government, to the head of government, so that he can present it to cabinet by September. Failing which, we will forget about even calling your name anywhere. That is why, if you notice in all the speeches, of the head of government, he talked about the vice president, the speaker of the house, Dorothy Nkea as the leader of the head of the ethics commission, and of course Barrister Mbeseha as the head of the judiciary commission. He mentions all those names for now, because when you are appointed as a member of government, Paddy, listen to me. You are vetted by Parliament.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
have two
for
callers
him
on
to
the phone.
wait. For him to
Yeah.
take you out officially by issuing a document, he must have gone through the staker that you went through to become a member of government, which includes the legislature. So
Perfect.
don't think that if the leader listen now, if the leader has not taken any written action, but he has allowed a member of government to put out a communique which was vetted. That communique that he just read has been vetted. That comes from the government.
That's
So don't say that the government has not reacted.
That's taken.
Thank you.
We have a lot because I have two callers. I'm able to get two callers. I will take them as they have come. But before, I want Barrister Mbeseha and Dr. Lobati to react briefly on some of the issues that we have Dr. Patience has raised this evening, so that we can get these people. Please call us, just be patient. You have your floor to speak, and so that this gentleman will react. I want to come to you, Barrister Mbeseha, and then Dr. Lobati. When you look at, like we have heard Barrister Fru say, when you have top government officials acting in contravention of government policies, which I don't want to give my personal opinion about those structures on this platform, but as an individual, I'll probably give it after this meeting. When you have such situation, do you think it is right at that point when people are acting publicly contravening almost everything government is doing and leadership? Do you think that Ambazonians who now consider them coup plotters are wrong from sharing that opinion? I want to come to you, Barrister Mbeseha, with that.
Well, I think Ambazonians in general, they have the right to their own opinion. And I will limit myself to your question. I think your statement that the government has not acted is an overstatement. Maybe Ambazonians don't know. The government has acted.
Okay.
And these are the circumstances. The president has raised that issue about twice. Publicly, he's the head of government. So it's wrong to say the government has not acted. But beyond that, the Dr. Mongwa, who is Secretary for Communication, has put out an official document which stands for the government. The Secretary for Communication explains the government action, sends out government positions. They have done just that. What the Secretary for Women Affairs did was just an addition, because what happened concerned them directly. The person whom we are talking about is a woman, and so it fell in the women's department. And so it is wrong, it's a mistake to say that the government has not acted. As simple as that. That's what it is. Ambazonia may have different opinions, but to say the government has not acted is just an error. We have acted. Over to you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Dr. Fred, very briefly, when you look at everything that is happening, as a counselor that you are, how do you feel the current situation? What do you think could lead to certain actions from especially top government officials? I want you to say that very briefly, quickly, so I could take the reaction from these two callers.
Anyway, I just think that many people have been hurt for different reasons. And the reaction only shows that they're deeply emotionally hurt. And they are, from my perspective, emotionally unstable and need healing. Just pray that they will be able to come to the peace that they need in their individual hearts. Because we all come from large families. We have all kinds of members in there. We have some that are very good and some that don't behave well. And once you degenerate into such language, you can shout it even in prayers. You know that you cannot stand in any court. Human, within the family or within the community of the village, or go to the palace, or go to your church, or not to mention even go to the civil court with the government, anywhere. Once that kind of language comes out, you know that you've already lost your case. So I just pray that they'll come to the healing that they need. That's what I would say. I don't want to go deeper into things. I try to stay away from all this. That's why I don't comment on WhatsApp forum.
And I would appreciate what you have said there. I think is just the therapeutic language that is required, or that Ambazonians would like at this critical time. So I'll be taking the first caller, and the first caller we have here is Nelson Ochiba before the next one. Gentlemen, try to be brief a little bit so that you can have the reaction of the panel. Make a brief comment, or if you have a question you want to ask, you can go right ahead. Nelson Ochiba, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Barrister Fru John Nsoh just corrected you a while ago that the document that the Women Department sent out was a government document, because it must have been drafted before it came out. So, which means that whatever thing is in the document reflects the position of the government.
Yeah. Now,
there are some other people who also go out there speaking on the government titles, and also speaking, taking a different kind of approach. So how can Barrister Fru John Nsoh differentiate between these two? Because I know that when you are working in a company, you are giving the service car, and you are giving it into the system.
Yeah.
Look into the system. So if you decide to come to work, like Barrister Fru John Nsoh said that, okay, you think you are not coming, you have excluded yourself. So how do you allow someone who has failed to be coming to work with your keys and your code and everything, and you believe that it is right? Thank you.
Okay, I will let them answer that question, but I just want to react to the first statement. Thank you very much for your question. There's a very strong argument Nelson Ochiba is bringing there, that if we would say that what Dr. Patience has sent out is a government position, how do we differentiate that from other actions, from other members of cabinet that is not government position?
Let me answer.
Well, I can give a quick answer before you come in, Barrister Fru. The quick answer is that Dr. Patience uses the official seal, and the government or the president has not protested against. But I also know that the government has protested against certain actions done by certain officials, especially if the Secretary of State for Communication stands against what you have done, then it is not government position. And Barrister Fru answered the question by saying that we are in a revolutionary government. It's kind of a little bit challenging to enforce certain laws, and there's a strategy the government is using that you can alienate yourself. So, but I'll allow the two lawyers to chip in something before I take the second caller. You want to say something based? I'll start with you, Barrister Fru, before we go to Barrister Mbeseha, based on the concerns of Ochiba, please.
Look, let me answer Ochiba. First, if you look at that communique issued by Dr. Abiado, it's an official statement.
Yes.
It's an official statement. But if I as a member of government, in my private capacity, not just what I just gave you is the official position of the government, but in my private thing, and I say something based on the vulgarity of a fellow cabinet member, and I don't do it officially, and it's not vetted by government. It is my private opinion. It has nothing to do with government. I don't know why. Some Ochiba is always wanting to go against anything the government does by making that kind of statement. When there is a commission, when anything that Dr. Mongwa puts out on written is the official position of the government. Anything that Dr. Abiado puts out written is an official position of government. Now,
okay.
Some of us have not put out anything because we don't need to. We by the nature of our functions, we act in private with the members of cabinet and the head of state. So we don't need to put out anything out here.
Yeah, Barrister Fru,
Look,
I don't think
let me finish. If you look at this reaction, this vulgarity coming from Mrs. Nkea, I have not reacted. Barrister Mbeseha has not reacted as the head of the judiciary. Nobody from the legislature has reacted officially. But that doesn't mean that some people who have their private opinion and they are angry cannot say something on social media. No, but you are doing it as a private individual, and your opinion is only to you because government has not vetted you to say so. That is the short and simple answer to Ochiba.
Before I give the mic to Barrister Mbeseha, I just want to comment on something. I don't think that Ochiba is always against the government. It's that Ochiba, like many other Ambazonians, are in their own ways trying to see how they can help government, which is
no. You are getting it wrong. On this issue, wait. Oh, you are misquoting me. On this issue, Ochiba wants a particular action to take place.
Yeah, like I'm saying, Barrister Fru, every Ambazonian has a right to want the government to do certain things on a certain thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are wrong. Like I myself also, I would prefer the government to act differently. But it doesn't mean that what the government has done is wrong. So I don't think that Ochiba is necessarily against the government. He's just trying to see how the government can function well. I interviewed the president last week and I asked him almost similar question. And he is comfortable with his procedure. As a leader of the government, that's his procedure. If he fails at the end of the day, he will take the blame. If he succeeds, he will take the blame. But the people generally would have the right to share their sentiments, especially if they love the government. There's something I want you to address there, Barrister Mbeseha, an aspect of what Ochiba said. It has to do with people boycotting, cabinet members or government officials boycotting official meetings and things. And Ochiba is worried. He's asking, how do the government let it happen like that for too long? And I think that's a necessary discussion. Maybe you want to explain the rationale behind that in another way that will help to educate our people of government strategy. But Mbeseha, please.
I think I cannot explain the reason because I'm not in their mind. I cannot explain the reason because I'm not the president. But this is what I think Nelson is making a mistake. The president had said earlier, sometime last week, aware of all those things. Is the president. Give him the time to act at the appropriate time, in the appropriate manner that he thinks is the best. He has listened to that. The mistake Ochiba is making is the same mistake that many people are making. Ochiba, those are his own opinions. You have the right to put out what you want. And most people think that because Ochiba says this or that, which is apparently against them, he represents the government. No, Ochiba is not a member of government. The positions of Ochiba are not binding on the government. They help the government, like all of us, but they don't bind us. Like any other person else, he has a right to his opinion, which is actually accepted. The president listens to it, and the president acts when it is necessary. And I've said it earlier. The president has spoken about this thing. Whatever the insults are a consequence of some disagreement, which the president has addressed. They are a consequence of some disagreement, which the Secretary for Communication has addressed. That is a member of government. He talked about it, signed and put his name, Secretary for Communication. Madam Abiede responded, wrote and signed it, Secretary for Women's Affairs. While we speak here, like you and me are talking, I'm not putting the position of government. I'm just expressing the opinion that I have. If I want this to become the legal position of this government, I will write it down and sign from the legal department or whatever. That's what is binding. But again, we are dealing with the modern world. People are free to express their opinion, some of which are very, very, very destructive. But you cannot shut their mouth.
Yeah.
They are part and parcel of us. The issue is, does the government listen to those things? They do. But the problem is, most people expect the government to act the way they think.
Immediately.
But the president has laid out a rule. They say, I listen to those things. We put out 3 principles. Let me address it adequately at the appropriate time, in the appropriate manner. Those were the words of the president when he spoke. I think that is too much.
I think your contribution by Mbeseha, the two of you, the barristers, have tactfully represented government here. And I'm very impressed with what Barrister Fru said, though I challenged him, and I'm happy with his response because people don't know this. And what the two of you have said is very educational. I like what you have said to Barrister Tim. The president said that last week. We all share. Any Ambazonian activist genuinely wanting the government to function good loves the government. So I don't want us to vilify them or see that, except somebody is going the cool plotting way. That I think if somebody is tasking government to take action, it's not because they hate the government, but they also have to understand that governments don't function like activists. Yeah, we have the next caller here. Yes, caller, go ahead. I think this is Mickey Chechuma. You want to ask a question? Make it brief, please.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Paddy, for picking my call. And I want to thank I have some concerns here that I think will be very important for Ambazonians. I want to talk about the TPS, which I'm seeing some communiques from the presidency of Donald Trump out there, whether it's from the presidency or from what, I don't know. So the concern is that they're going to stop the extension of the TPS. And from the letter that I saw out there, it's showing that the TPS is saying that, the letter is saying that they're going to stop the TPS because of the Boko Haram and the separatists that are causing pain on people, harassing people in Cameroon. So when the government of Federal Republic of Ambazonia say that they are initiating the extension of the TPS, how is it that they include the Boko Haram and the separatists, which are the Ambazonians? So the question now is, what will be the fate of many Ambazonians in the United States who are benefiting from does not take opportunity to see that they keep the TPS. Only, I want to thank you guys for talking about the conduct of some officials of the cabinet of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. I want to think that this issue of misconduct did not start now, started years back. And mostly concerning involving the president and the top of the cabinet. People have been crying out that the government should take concrete actions against these people who do these things out there. But nothing concrete has happened that could stop other people from doing it. Now, before now, we heard it from the Vice President of the Republic of Ambazonia coming out to not only to attack the personality of one of the members of the government, SOS for
I think a reaction to something. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so And not only personality, but the more that specificity, which I do not think that should have come from that for personality in the government. But the government gave deaf ears. Now that the government is leaving all those things and is going out of hand, how are they going to control it? Because when you start something and you don't stop.
Okay, you have made your comment, you asked your question. Let me react to it very quickly, Mickey. I think I have been one of those that have followed the different processes, the reaction to certain bad behaviors that have led to people making very terrible statements. You mentioned three things which I think we should address. How would the government, I think Mbeseha and Fru have already mentioned that the government hears and the government will react to it. You would bear with me that on many different occasions.
Finally, the final thing I can say is when the diplomacy, you see that everything Ambazonia are hoping diplomacy and the action on the ground. Okay, Barrister Fru just talked about government in revolutionary time. And I believe in that when everybody should put hand on board to fight to see that we are
not in disorder. I know what you're saying, Mickey. I'm sorry for cutting you short because you've taken more than the time that is required. But I know exactly what you're saying. Your very first statement, even the question on the TPS, I've heard the argument before with somebody on Facebook. I've also heard those who are claiming to also do diplomacy, trying to sabotage the effort and putting Boko Haram. There's something called diplomatic language. You understand? I'll be cutting you short, Mickey, because you have exceeded your time. No.
I was just about to land.
Yeah, land very fast, please.
Yeah, so now that when I heard an issue of television is coming out and are talking over the internet, over the social media, that it was wrong for the television to be created and things like that. And we were believing that, we outside were believing that if this is a revolution and a lot of people are talking about it, that will give more attention.
The point is that, Mickey, you're making statements like the statements that some of the ignorant figures I call, especially, I don't want to call his name on this platform because I'm going to address him personally. I've seen a lot of people with that, creating that platform. At least 80% of all of them are ignorant people. I'm saying this publicly for the first time. And I'm going to say that, listen, Mickey, I'll drop your call now. And I'm going to address that later on. When you say many voices for people to listen, when you talk about many, you've already landed. You're not landing. You're not going to land the third time. When you talk about many voices that people are going to talk about, all of these people have always had a platform. If you were asking me a question about how to create revolutionary TV, some of them don't even know what a revolutionary TV is. I've heard their audios. I'm here to react to them. And I think that is in my capacity to react to it. So I am telling you, Mickey, that first of all, you're confused with your diplomatic understanding. And you're confused like the person who sent out a long audio trying to talk about revolutionary TV with their mentality of it. I will send my statement. Maybe you hear my audio one of these days and you react to it. So I am saying that your questions will be addressed now, but you have gone way ahead of your time. I'm not going to allow you to continue to speak and speak forever so we can continue this conversation. So Mickey has mentioned three things. He started by saying what we already know where it's coming from. That has to do with questioning the letter that came out. They were expecting that the United States government will use the word Ambazonia or probably the word Southern Cameroons. So you have some ignorant fellows who don't understand how diplomacy and the diplomatic language works, wanted to sabotage those efforts that we have appraised here. Secondly, Mickey is talking about an equivalent way that government should react to certain things. There are many things that the government has not reacted to, which they reacted when it escalated. Then, and I don't want to blame the government for that. And he's also talking about revolutionary TV. We have addressed this a couple of times. When you people have talked on it, I will address that issue on the confusion and the rhetoric that these guys are trying to put out there as a justification for creating a platform that I would call a platform for distraction. Go ahead. I'll begin with you, Barrister Fru.
Yeah, all I have to say is that the caller should know that a revolution cannot be run by several groups of people. A revolution is run by a revolutionary movement, headed, in our case, this government. And this government has a television station that is revolutionary. And if you go out of it and create a parallel structure in competition with the government, you are no longer part of that government. Simple. I will end there.
Amazing. Barrister Mbeseha, please.
Well, I think the caller, there are so many errors, few misunderstanding of how it works from the caller's own view. Say, as you said, starting from what you said, the president has said, and we have emphasized, the day you hear any government in the world, including the most particularly the United States, call the name Ambazonia, who have crossed the bar. They will not call it until the last moment. So whether it be called TPS, Ambazonia, or Southern Cameroon is irrelevant diplomatically. The important thing is that they know that there's a problem there. So that should answer the question. The second point is, let us understand this. People have expected the government to react to the insults, so whatever thing is going on. I've said the government has reacted. But sometimes the government reacts, sometimes very late. It is important to see the reaction of the population. So the people from where those insults come hear how people disagree with them. So they don't turn down to blame me or you or the president if action is taken which is not in their favor. We've seen this so many times. Why this truth and reconciliation, which resulted from constitutional amendment and whatever it's in access and so on. It's good to have the people talk. When in civilized world, let the people speak so that a person who has shame, you can feel ashamed that you made a mistake by saying this thing by yourself. That by itself is correction. So it is important for us to know that. Again, the government listens, but the government is not bound to react the way you want. Otherwise, it ceases to be a government. They react according to your will. Tomorrow, I will insist that they react according to my own will. And of the 8 million of us, everybody will expect the government to react in his or her own way. And so I think the matter has been taken care of by the president himself. I'm just emphasizing. By the Secretary for Communication, that's important. And by the Women's Affairs, which concerns them directly. They deal with women issues. The issue concerns women. Their reactions are in writing. So what else do we need from this government other than that? I have not ventured to say what the government has done. What will it end with? For now, those people who are involved, call them co-pilots or whatever name, who are members of cabinet, they are still members of cabinet as we speak. I cannot predict what action the president will take on that. But if the president takes no action, give him credit for having a reason for not taking action. But again, all of us have spoken. Those who can learn from their own errors would have learned from them. And so don't blame the government for not doing something. Again, we're in a revolutionary stage. People are angry. People are frustrated. People have, as the president says, some people will drop off and come back. Some will drop off and will never come back. That's the nature of a revolution. You all be lucky to drop and come back. But if people drop and were killed, they will never see the life of the life anymore. That is a revolution. Expect angers to flare up. Expect people to fight even in a room. When these debates come up, people will fight physically. That's how the world is. But that fighting between me and Paddy Nsoh or Dr. Lobati or whoever, fighting physically does not destroy the spirit of the revolution. And so that's what we should take home. Again and again and again. Let people stop blaming the government for things said by individuals in free speech. Uchiba insulted me. Oh, Mr. Sako Utagora beating him. This wrote this about me. Oh, they're going to kick him. That is the nature of the revolution. So that's the advice. The president is not going to go down the streets, kicking people out, beating people physically to make them obey.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
unacceptable. Over to you.
Yeah, Dr. Lobati, I want you to comment there very briefly so that we can discuss on the last thing for this show for today. We have something very important I want us to get there. I would like you to comment before I comment on the aspect of the creation of the TV, and I'm going to be doing that for the first time on this platform. And I'll not just give my stand, because if I give my stand, it's not going to be right with the editorial policy. I cannot give there are some things I will give outside this platform as per what I see that so-called TV is all about. But I will talk from an ethical and a policy position, which as an advisor of this government when it comes to communication and broadcasting, I think I can share that opinion to you people, the policy makers here, or what I think on that issue. But the activist position, before some of these guys calling themselves activists, I was activist before most of you guys. So there are some things I don't do now because I opt not to do it. Especially porn along. I brought you to the communications department and to ABC. I brought porn along. So when you have the audacity to come out and make statements, you must understand that as a youth, you are a failure, because you had the opportunity to have started ABC in Germany and you didn't do it. I caught you and Nancho brought you people. Two Chris Anna brought you people. We had a plan. What happened to the plan? A lot of Ambazonians don't know this. I brought you on TV. What have you done with that effort? And after you have failed as a youth, you want to blame your failure on people.
Okay,
please.
Anyway, before you already went deeper into what you wanted to say, but I don't know, of all the points the speaker, the last person talking was bringing, I think he was concerned about the expression of calling Ambazonians separatists. Remember, I mentioned that the United States is not a perfect country. It's like, we believe that it's the best country of all the nations on earth for us, but it's not a perfect country. It does many things bad. So I want to read this strategy statement of La République du Cameroun to conserve government, where they say that we know that the Anglophones don't really want secession. That's what they think. But to win big, we have to accuse them of separation and terrorism. So La République is carrying out their own diplomatic activity, with the diplomatic world, with the foreign nations, and they are driving this home to accuse us. And they say in here that they want to falsely accuse us of being separatists and being terrorists. So they know that we are not separatists and we are not terrorists, but they are falsely accusing us. And they're driving this home into the minds of the foreign diplomat. And so this U.S. document is trying to put that there. I can read a lot about their ideology about us, but I'll leave that one because I don't want to take too much time. But one thing that you also need to know, one thing that Trump did when he destroyed U.S. aid, besides the fact that they were using it in some countries to buy condoms for the troops, for the military, they also found out that some of the U.S. aid was being used to finance Boko Haram. There's another story in itself. So the terrorists that they are calling Boko Haram financed partially with U.S. aid money, and then falsely accusing us separatists. So these people, they want a perfect country that calls us what we want to be called. He is trying to say that those members of Congress or whoever wrote that document, they should have called us what we think we want to be called. No, America is not operating like that. But I personally believe that at the right time, things will fall in place and we will be who we want to be. There's nothing that's going to change that. I'll just leave it right there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lobati. So let me complete my comment on this whole TV. This is an opinion that is not a personal opinion. It's a logical opinion. And all the members that are the creators of that television, they know that this is my stand. The stand is, as I'm advising the government, I would think that is a breach. What do you people call that, Barrister Fru? It's conflict of interest. Let us not make a mistake here. Every Ambazonian has a right to create a television. Let's be clear on this. And the government should not stop you from creating your TV.
No.
But as a member of cabinet, this is what makes the difference. You cannot start a television, and you even have the audacity to call it a state TV, that its objective is at variance with the government. And you have represented yourself as a rebel within government. So my opinion, which I'm saying again publicly, I've said it to some of them individually. My opinion is that every person involved in that television as a cabinet member should be fired. That's my opinion. I have no apology with that. I have told the president this. I've told the government this. I've told even some of the members who created the TV. In spite of who you are, you should not be holding an official position and acting so unethically. What some of these individuals don't know, that they have been trying to argue publicly and disgracing themselves to justify the action. So it doesn't, if King, I'm speaking to you people today, I have a plan for a podcast. The day I want to do it, and that podcast is at variance to ABC, the honorable thing to do is not to work for ABC. And Ambazonians have no right to be against me for doing that. I will not be against anybody that has their TV with the pretext that the TV is going to fight for Ambazonia. Do not occupy an official position and you are disgracing the people of Ambazonia with the pretext that you want to start a TV. Before I left Cameroon, Barrister Fru, you know a little bit about me. I am recognized by the Ministry of Culture in Cameroon as promoteur culturel. That certificate was given to me by Amatu Tumuna. I had a podcast that was going to be financed by the Cameroon government. A lot of people are watching this program in Cameroon, they know it. Some people, you need to go and ask who is Paddy King. But that was suspended because of Ambazonia. When I came back from South Africa in 2017 and things were happening, I had to suspend a lot of these things because I wanted to help SCBC to grow. At this critical time, I cannot start that podcast and claiming as the news director of ABC that it is to help Ambazonia. It is first of all going to prove that I'm a primitive man. It doesn't make sense. So I'm talking to these people, I'm not insulting you. You might be ignorant about it, but you're disgracing yourselves. I am praying for you people to even have some sense in the way you're doing the things you're doing. You're embarrassing yourselves. You are acting unofficially, unintelligently in every move you are doing. There is nothing wrong in creating a TV, but you cannot hold an official position and create that kind of platform. It only means that you don't have sense. That's a simple thing. So let's move on. There's a video I want to show. We're going to talk about elections and Bishop Nkea. There's a video I want to show. We'll get to that.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today we gather on the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the Prevention of this Crime. This solemn occasion also marks the anniversary of the Genocide Convention, which enshrined the crime of genocide in international law. This day serves to honor the victims of all genocides, from those who perished in the Holocaust to the Tutsi who were killed during the genocide in Rwanda. It also serves to reaffirm our collective commitment to ensure that such horrors are neither forgotten nor repeated. This year's theme, Remembrance and Prevention, the role of commemoration and memory for the prevention of genocide, underscores the power of memory as a tool for education and a shield against denial and apathy. In remembering our history, however terrible it can be, we can collectively chart a path forward that protects vulnerable populations, combats hate speech, and takes a firm stand against discrimination in all its forms. Excellencies, the threat of genocide will persist as long as people are targeted for hate on the basis of their identity, religion, gender, or any other marker. These are risks that have been exacerbated by the misuse of modern communications and social media. All of us must decisively act. We must confront hate speech with tolerance, uphold human rights, and use education to instill empathy. We must also elevate the voices of survivors who can play a powerful role in fostering remembrance and underscoring the urgency of prevention. Moreover, to end impunity, we must punish perpetrators, ensure justice for victims. Excellencies, throughout history, genocides have occurred when we fail to act despite warning signs. So let us never again fail to act. Let us strive in the present to build a more compassionate future, one rooted in vigilance, accountability, and an unwavering commitment to human dignity. Let us honor the memory of those we have lost by renewing our efforts to protect the lives and dignity of all people now and for generations to come. Thank you.
I'm very happy that Barrister Mbeseha is still here. Please, let's give opportunity for Barrister Mbeseha to speak first because he has to go to somewhere before we continue. Then I know that Dr. Lobati and yourself will have a lot to say. Barrister Mbeseha, you shared a video with me that I want you to analyze that with what is the hypocrisy here in conjunction before you leave. This is a freestyle. I will ask questions to the others because I don't want to waste your time. Barrister Mbeseha, please go ahead.
Well, you remember before this gentleman, young Philomena, I think, before he took office, we had a lot of debates here on his functions and what he can do or not do. What he has read there, does anybody believe that that thing is written young? No, he has a whole office that writes those things for the UN. And so he reads them as the president of the General Assembly, as an official of the United Nations. He represents the United Nations as he speaks. He's not speaking for his home government that he knows is guilty of everything that he has said there. And so Philemon Yang, as a person, is not the one speaking. Philemon Yang, as the president of the General Assembly, is the one speaking, stating the policy of the United Nations as far as genocide is concerned, which is perfectly correct. What he has stated there are the principles that are laid out about genocide in the United Nations records. They are not imagining them. United Nations conventions. And so when Mr. Philemon Yang comes to read that sort of thing, we only use them to confront his own government for being read by their own agent. They voted him to go there. They carry a different policy, but it's being forced. He's been forced to read out something that they don't believe in back home. They don't believe in that. Before he came to the United Nations less than a few months ago, the genocide was going on. He said nothing. He knew it. Maybe he didn't know, but now he knows. Talking from the podium of the United Nations, we can use that, and we should use that to challenge them and use him as a reference. He came from Bui. He's a Bui guy. All the genocide in Garibu and so on took place there. And so that's what it is. He's talking from his official position. He's not talking as Philemon Yang, which were said here. He reads those things, just like the Secretary General. He has a big staff that researches on United Nations records about those things, puts out an official statement, he reads, and shamelessly go back to his bed and sleep. That's all I can say about that. Over to you.
Amazing. Do you want to comment very briefly before you leave about the statements, the interview on Equinox? I hope I have the chance to stream some of those images after this on issues relating to elections again. We know Cameroon is planning for elections somehow. But Fru is kind of disconnected. What's happening? Like, I'm going to follow up that with him.
Yes, that's the one I wanted to say something about. You see, any Ambazonian who is talking about elections in Cameroon today, in my opinion, that Ambazonian does not understand the problem of Ambazonia. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't know what they are fighting for. If he or she understood what Ambazonia stands for, they will not be talking about elections. Because why are we even fighting? How did the fighting start? In 2016, what was the problem? What led Cameroon to declare war? They had come out with the policy which they still insist today. Cameroon is one and indivisible one. The form of state cannot be changed. So all these people are talking about that thing. There's no way that you use elections to get what Ambazonians want. Absolutely zero chance. And this will make us to answer. This is presidential elections. But after that, they will have parliamentary elections. 180 parliamentarians in Yaoundé. Out of the 180 parliamentarians, there are only 35. 20 from the so-called Northwest, 15 from the so-called Southwest. What was the mathematical figures used to give you 15 and 20? Nobody knows. What was the mathematical formula used to give the southern region, the east, and so on, whatever they were entitled to? Nobody knows. But even going back to elections, if the thing were to be about elections, if we have 35 MPs, 15 from the Southwest, 20 from the Northwest, that's a total of 35. How are you ever going to use that money to change anything in Yaoundé when they say the form of state cannot change? Absolutely zero chance. And I can all refer you again back to 1961. We're fighting to return of our institutions. In the 1961 Constitution, we were 10 members of parliament out of 50. Only 10 out of 50.
Yeah.
But there was a constitutional provision that made the 10 very, very useful. Article 18 said, Article 17 first said, laws are passed by simple majority. 18 said, if any of the states do not like it, they can ask for a second reading. In other words, they go back to the playbook. And once they ask for it, if one child asks for it, for that legislation to pass, even if all the 40 francophones voted, they will require 6 of the 10 anglophones to vote. Otherwise, nothing will pass. And so we had that constitutional protection. Even though they never used it, we had that constitutional protection. There is no constitutional protection in the present dispensation, where you can talk about using your power in the parliament, power in the presidency, or whatever thing to pass anything. We are fighting for a restitution of our institutions, which cannot be done by Yaoundé through the elections. We are fighting for a restoration of independence. Yaoundé can never give you independence. They will give you what they want. They will give you regional assemblies. They will give you something they call a reconciliator, who will settle disputes between farmers. So elections to us have no meaning, because they will never address, no matter how you do it, even from the presidency, unless the presidency passes a decree, which should be absent. Through parliament, through senate, there's no way that you can use election method to get what Ambazonians want. So forget about elections, good or bad. They are not going to solve Ambazonian problems, because our problem is constitutional, not parliamentary. It's constitutional. And so that's what I can say about that. Again, Article 18 of the Federal Constitution, which I have here, of 1st September 1961, empowered the 10 MPs from the so-called West Cameroon to veto a legislation passed by 40 MPs of East Cameroon. That provision is not there in the 1996 Constitution. Cameroon has not changed its policy since 2016 to say that the form of state is not this, it shall never be debated anywhere. It will never be debated. They have stood on that position. And in 2016, what were they looking for? They were looking for a return to the federation, which were dealing with the form of state. The role, it will never be debated. They are still there, even in their Grand National Dialogue, even in their Canadian talks. They said it will never be debated. It was never debated. So elections are a zero starter for us. Thank you, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Is your sound good now, Barrister Fru? I realized that you were disconnected. Are you good?
It was my battery on my tablet that went off, so I'm now using my phone. So
that's good.
I wanted to react to the president of the national of the General Assembly of the UN, his speech.
Yes, please go ahead.
I don't know whether Philemon Yang knows that he is from the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. I don't know whether he knows that genocide took place and it continues to take place in the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Ngabu is not very far from his village, Oku. Ngabu, let me repeat myself, Ngabu in Donga Manton is not very far from the village of Mr. Philemon Yang. What does he call the killing of civilians, 14 children and the rest, men and women, totaling 32, on that 14th of February 2020? What does he call that? There was a massacre also in Santa, orchestrated by a member of the government of the south of La République du Cameroun, Atanga Njipol, together with one Jonathan Fru from Santa. They connived and slaughtered more than 30 youths in a hotel in Pinyin.
Yeah.
And even those two people who escaped from there alive and found themselves in a Catholic clinic, they followed there and killed them. What does he call that? What does he call that? The killing of people in Bali and burning them with chemicals. More than 70 people were slaughtered in Bali and burned with chemicals, all civilians. What does he call that? And now he talks about genocide and only mentions Rwanda and I don't know which other one, and forgot that the southern Cameroons, there was a genocide that was perpetrated on his own people.
Yeah.
And to finish, I want to say that the way things I'm hearing from the appearing and from the feelers I'm getting from Yaoundé, Philemon Yang, if Bia does not run for president, Philemon Yang risk being nominated as the chairman of the CPDM and the presidential candidate for that election. So he's the greatest hypocrite that I have seen so far, running an international organization like the UN General Assembly. He should be ashamed of himself for not mentioning the genocide that has taken place in his own country and in his own backyard. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Amazing. I know that there's a lot you did not hear from Barrister Mbeseha on this Nkea's position, but I'll get back to you on that. Let us hear from Dr. Fred, because I know he has a lot to say about that.
Well, the two topics belong together: the Philemon Yang thing as well as the elections in La République du Cameroun. Philemon Yang reportedly is one of Muna's children with his Oku girlfriend. And like all the Munas, they have all betrayed Ambazonians or their people of their own ethnic group for favors from La République du Cameroun. And they have been taken through their secret societies and ridiculed to the point where he's been humbled to this point where he's not speaking with self-confidence. He's even holding his hands like a priest trying to pray in church. and basically speaking out of order almost like a drunkard. Because La République acknowledges that a genocide happened in Bamileke land, and La République has carried out genocide in Ambazonia. This is the strategy document of La République du Cameroun of Bias Bulu Group, How to Conserve Power, and I will go in there and read the portions about the Bamilekes and the Ambazonia, so you know that elections are already rigged and they don't care about the genocide that they do. About the Bamilekes, they say that we must divide and oppose the Beti and the Bamileke groups and do everything we can to put it into the heads of our people that their enemy is the Bamileke. They must do everything to prevent them from coming to power. We are aware of the evidence that the Bamilekes are the majority ethnic group in this country, but we will have to mask this reality by focusing the debate on the number of ethnic groups, 250, and talking about one group of the over 200 wanting to dominate. That means put all the Bamilekes as one and claim that they want to dominate when they constitute over 40% of the population. Every Cameroonian must see a suspect in every Bamileke. We will lose power the day we stop fanning the flames of hatred of Cameroonians against the Bamilekes, and genocide starts with hatred. Maintaining the myth of a Bamileke plot is imperative to the survival of our power. We must prevent the emergence of a political figure capable of uniting the will of the Bamilekes like Amto. We must annihilate any individual from this community who dares to put himself forward politically, even if it means offending the international community. We must kill any political party that has the support of the Bamilekes, even if it means risking a tribal war or even a second Bamileke genocide. This is documentation by themselves that there was a Bamileke genocide. This occurred when we, the Ambazonians, the people of the former British Southern Cameroon, were forced to join them. This genocide was being carried out by the French since 1946 and escalated in 1956 through 1971 when Ernest Wandi was shot in the public